I saw Watership Down at the right age, right at the moment when I was about 13, 14, and I was leaving behind my childhood and entering my teen years, and the movie was sort of a rite of passage, because I saw a level of realism and drama and violence in animation.
There's no need to take you back.
Come on and try, you crack-brained slave driver.
And it was such a watershed moment that I then decided to read the book. I came to the book after the film, and I then read Plague Dogs and read Girl in a Swing, and I really became quite enamored of his prose. But the film was the moment in which a kid my age came to realize animation was not just a medium for children's stories, but it could be something else. It is a very old tradition to utilize animals to address social issues. You can do it through engravings like Grand Bill, or you can do it through animal metaphors that are very heavy, like Animal Farm, or Mouse, later in a comic book form. But what was really powerful for me with Watership Down is that it was not trying to just mirror socio-political concerns. It was creating a world with socio-political concerns. When I say adult concerns, the novel and the film address a variety of things, from making peace with mortality all the way to ecological concerns, the overgrowth of urban spaces and the destruction of natural spaces, bravery, the idea of community, the idea of oppression. These things that you find in adult discourse and in adult novels outside the realm of discussion for children were all in the film for me.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Choose a side in a Clone Wars.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Clone Wars, where two similar pieces of media clash to be crowned champion. Two go in, and only one comes out. Last podcast, we got down, dirty, sleazy, and this time we're going in a completely different direction. We are getting dark and depressing in a whole new light. So my guest has decided to, even though I've only just come out of my dark, depressive mental health state this year, he's gone, you know what? You know what I want to do? The dark, deep, depressing, child-friendly films of Watership Down and the Plague Dogs. And he has bright eyes, but mine have suddenly turned so pale when he decided he wanted to cover these two films. We're going back to the Animal Farm, as we've done before, and Maff is back to talk these two films. And yeah, what a journey, Maff, for to do a double bill of these. I'm glad I did not do them back to back.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on. It's funny because what I came to you first was about, why don't we do top five films that don't end the way that, you expect it to do? Kind of.
I'm pretty sure you said like depressing endings or bad endings or sad endings. And I was like, Maff, if this is the choice you're giving me, you're saying I've got to do potentially at least 10 movies worth of sad endings and bad endings.
Yeah,
I was like, I think I can only settle for two. Let's do the two over the potential 10.
Well, yeah, because then it's like, well, what about Watership Down? And then you mentioned Plague Dogs.
I did, yeah.
That.
Yeah,
So-
because I think it was one of my suggestions last time because I was looking for like animal themed stuff.
Yeah.
Because I thought, we'll keep the theme going. And then this time I was like, whatever you want, and you're like, we're going back to the animals, and you'll
Not do
suggest
that again.
yeah, maybe not in the future. I think with the other choice as well, it's a bit spoilerific. You know me, I don't want to be known as Spoiler Dan anymore, so I'm trying to avoid that. And any way we slice it, I'm either going to have to figure out that they already have a bad ending before I watch them.
Right.
If I haven't already seen them and know about them, if I'm going to find something new, because I do try and watch new stuff if I can.
That's fair enough. I mean, as I said, it was just, I think it was a conversation I might have been talking with Rio actually, and they were like, oh yeah, this film actually doesn't end the best way, and it's not so much they're all bad endings; they just don't have that typical kind of upbeat ending that
the Hollywood ending, you could say, yeah. And I think
more
these
realistic.
And these films are absolutely could be in that top 5.
Well, these are child friendly. There was they had this certificate U, so
They did. They did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, spoilers for the end of the films. You could potentially. I mean, you could argue they're both somewhat positive endings in a sense.
Watership Down is as old as I am. So,
True.
So if you've not seen it, I mean, Plague Dogs is different. It's not as well known.
No.
But again, if you've seen Watership Down, you probably have a good idea of how this is going to go.
Yeah, there's a reason I picked these two for comparison. I hadn't seen Plague Dogs, but with these, I try and, if I've seen one, I try not to watch the other, just in case, I'm going in with any preconceived ideas of who's going to win or anything. But sometimes I do have to dig into the research. Sometimes that's spoilerific, and I'm aware of that. I know what I'm doing. But yeah, I saw a lot of the similarities, and I found even more as I watched and as I looked into the research of both of these films. I'm gonna say now, if you do have children, these films may not, almost definitely not suitable for a number of reasons. If you are a animal lover and you don't want to see animals in distress or killed or eviscerated or experimented on, vivisected, this film is not for you and your family, maybe just yet. But I think there is some benefits to watching them as a more mature viewer, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, these are not sit at home on a Sunday afternoon and say, "Hey kids, come around," because I had this discussion. I mentioned it to my daughter about watching Watership Down. I said, "Oh, I might ask your mum if she wants to watch it." She's like, "Yeah, that's a good idea, Dad." And then I mentioned it to Amanda. I says, "Do you want to Watership Down with me?" And she's like, "No." I says, what do you think about George? And like, she says, "No, probably not neither." So I thought I'll watch it first because
yes,
I have memories of it, but it depends how blurred they are to, because it's many years since I've seen it.
Yeah.
And within the first 5 minutes, I'm thinking, yeah, no. George wants to be a vet at some point, he said, and he does get quite emotional. He's 6 years old. I don't think this could have traumatized him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even me, I do think sometimes we do have a, like, when it comes to like showing kids films and scaring them or like traumatizing them. And again, I don't mind that. I was traumatized by like Disney films. I've talked about that recently, like Sleeping Beauty and some other stuff. I think it's okay. I think it's good. I think it helps them grow. It helps them know what they don't like, what they're comfortable with. You find out where the boundaries are. And I think sometimes you do have to test those waters to know, what your kid is comfortable with.
Yeah, I think this is going to be something. Maybe when he's like 10, I could sit him down and I could kind of definitely watch it down. I definitely could do.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I'd argue even Plague Dog isn't really a kid's film,
No.
To be honest. But we will get into that. But yeah, there's a lot of complex feelings about these films. People talk about it. I mentioned I was watching it at work, and people were like, "Oh my god, I remember it being horrible, and this happened and that, and and I actually shared an image of General Woundwort
Oh, yes.
You know, that classic image just before he attacks a dog. You know, he's got all the slather around his mouth, the blood, the scratches, scars, and he's kind of going. And I shared
Dogs
that.
aren't dangerous.
Yes, don't be afraid of dogs. And there's that image of him leaping, you know, kind of violently towards the dog. And I shared that. Sometimes I tend to have a little bit of fun in the office now and again, and I'll share things. And, you know, I went to see Good Boy like you did recently, which I think kind of falls into this kind of category as well, the animal.
Very much.
And I showed it. I sent it, and all I could hear going around the office was like a oh. Like there was I could hear the verbal and visceral reactions to it. So either they're remembering the film, or it's the image itself, or they're young people that have never known about this film or heard of it. So it still has an effect on people. Watership Down, especially because
it's sad thing because I remember watching this on TV when I was probably maybe 6 or 7 myself. You know, it came up on BBC because it's it's all right for kids to sit and watch. I'm watching it and thinking, oh my God, you know what? There's part of me kind of thinking this is quite cool, but there's part of me thinking, oh my gosh, they're getting killed. You know, and as a young brain, it doesn't compute the same way as what we do.
No.
But, again, the story of Watership Down, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to unpack. And as an adult, you can kind of look at it and go, okay, I can see what he's trying to do. I mean, reading a bit more about the author, Richard Adams.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Watership Down was, he came up with that for his daughters as they were kind of going to school one day. And they're like, Dad, you've got to write this out. So he did, and that's kind of where it came from. But I'm pretty sure the original story probably wasn't quite as horrifying as what we get. But
I mean, it comes back to that the conversation me and Tonya have been having about the banned films and the banned books and the differences between them, and like again, you can imagine the battle with General Woundwort in your imagination, and yet probably is not as graphic or as disturbing or as intense as what the film represents to us and what presents it as. So it's interesting to see those differences, and again, I've read up a little bit on the differences in the novels. Not large differences; they're mostly the same as the book to a degree, but they're kind of truncated and shortened, or some scenes are moved around or slightly altered.
They cut certain things out. It's amusing listening to the banned movies that he did, and also the banned books and that. That these two films got released, and I said they've got that usage. Well, they had that use certificate. They haven't now. They did finally change it, but how were these not banned? Because these are quite brutal. These are the kind of films that you would expect to be banned, but they're not. But then you get something like Barbie. It's like, what? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly, and I think that's the point Tonya's making. We did Charlotte's Web the first time I did banned books, and that the reason for that was because it was unchristian, or because the animals spoke. The only people who are allowed to speak in in God's language is apparently humans, what have you. But again, that makes no sense to me. But to somebody of that religion, or that fundamentalist kind of learning of scripture and stuff, perhaps it is.
There's also an element of narrow-mindedness as well. Things have moved on an awful lot now. So I think something like that wouldn't be seen as being. I wouldn't actually say it's blasphemous now.
No,
whereas maybe back then it probably was. I mean, Animal Farm came into criticism, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, but
we definitely get a bit of fascism in these stories. I tell you that.
But the thing is that they use stories like this to be able to kind of push forward a political kind of argument to a certain degree by using more easier, dare I say, child-friendly kind of, characters to be able to kind of say a deeper, greater plot. And that. So it's a way that he's tried to get around it. Is it because if you were to change the rabbits to a different ethnic minority, and that
Oh Jesus, yeah.
the story would work to a certain degree.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
the criticism you would get for doing that would be humongous. And that, so let's use animals, and then people will be possibly a bit more kind of lenient to take on the story, and then maybe look into it a bit more.
And to be honest, I could see these, if you release these today as they are, uncut, unedited, I could see people, on either side of the political spectrum going, almost agreeing that they should be banned or should not be shown or should not be accessible because they're too traumatizing, too violent, too, depressing, too much of anything. But I think there is quite a bit of beauty to be found in these films as well. No matter how tragic and how disturbing and how, arguably the realism there of what they're showing in nature. Nature inherently is brutal and beautiful at the same time, and there's no escaping. You don't get one without the other. No. And how many times have parents gone, oh, your fish dies, your rabbit dies. Oh, that's nature. That's just how it happens. My Rottweiler ate my rabbit. Like we're going to talk about we're going to talk about trauma, but I never knew because they never told me, they never showed me,
Right.
They never, and I don't think they wanted me feeling particularly, poor towards the dog. We love the dog, and I might have considered the dog like the enemy now, and like he's killing my things. How dare he? Like, and and dogs have been put down for less. Because of that.
I'll share it. Hopefully, my mum doesn't listen to this. Many years ago, mum and dad used to have 5 Islers and that, and they was looking after them. And one of their friends had I think it was like a Chihuahua kind of dog.
Yeah.
And they was asked, they were going away because, would we look after it? Because we looked after, we had dogs. So it's like, yeah, of course. And it came on a little pillow, for it to sleep on. And it was all nice. And I mean, it yapped and yapped and yapped.
Of course.
And went to bed that night. And our dog in the morning was laid there with a big smile on her face, licking her lips. And there was just a pile of bones on the pillow. And she thought, oh, you brought me a snack. And obviously at some point during the night, the dog must have kind of annoyed her or something. And she just went at it and she just pretty much ate it and licked it clean.
Jesus
and it's like,
Christ.
And I remember kind of seeing this and thinking, oh my gosh. And like my mum and dad then having to explain to the friends, what it's like, but like my dad says, unfortunately, things like these do happen. If you're out in the wild, things like this do happen. He says, and the dog that we had was very old, and it'd been in our family for years, and and it never been nasty or anything like that. I mean, Weimaraners are a kind of scene. They used to be known as nanny dogs. They used to help look after kids and things like that. So it was complete out of nature of but there must have been something that triggered. Yeah. And she had a snack that night. And it's like, but like my dad did say, things like these, happen. It's survival of the fittest sometimes. Lion King does that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously it's horrible and horrific, but it is, nature. It's their instinct, isn't it? It's the instinct to do that. They can snap. You can have a moment. Dogs that have never had a moment's worth of trouble with anybody can all of a sudden bite somebody out completely out of the blue. And same with any wild animal really can go. Just it only takes one moment, for it to. Like the guy who used to kind of the grizzly man or whoever, he used to spend so much time with bears, spend years and years with bears, lived with them, slept with them, knew them back to front, and then one day that bear just went, nah, and ate him, killed him. And that was it.
You see, that's the thing, unfortunately things like these do happen. We see ourselves top of the food chain. We're certainly where we are, but the thing is, don't mess with nature because it will just turn around at some point and it's unpredictable. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, we do have pets and we do kind of, but even in Play Dogs, there's a point when Rolf's like, you know, we're going to go back to being what we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And that, you know, back to that savage nature to survive.
Mm.
And there's always something in there. It's like in humans, they say the caveman brain, sometimes that kind of kicks in and, you know, something else takes over. And obviously animals have that as well. You know, it's an animal instinct of, this is what I should be doing. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a
Sorry
hell of
about that.
That's a hell of a story, Maff. So yeah, even more trauma dumping from both of us
So
and
this
our
is
own
a
pets.
upbeat podcast. Everyone's really
Upbeat,
enjoying.
happy-go-lucky, charming, you know, light and airy, you know, lots of fun. But yes, but no, I am, you know, I do joke, you know, I'm not these films, you know, again, they affected me and they had a deep effect on me. But I still liked both of them. I still think they're very well made films. They're very well made stories, well made adaptations of these books. From what I can tell, I've not read the books, but I've done a little bit of research around them and read about other people who have read them and compared them or the differences and stuff. But let's get into it, Maff. We've trauma dumped enough of our own stuff. But as you know, Maff, with the Clone Wars, there are always reasons for comparison. So I'm going to give you a few. I'm sure you'll come up with some of your own, so please tell me afterwards. But I'll go through these first. So both films were written, directed, and produced by Martin Rosen. Both films are adaptations of the novels by Richard Adams. Both films feature some of the same cast, including John Hurt and Nigel Hawthorne. Both films feature bad language.
Yes.
These rated universal for all ages. Both films feature characters who have nightmare flashes and dreams. Both films feature areas that are real life locations or are inspired by real life locations. Both films have a strong emphasis on ecological themes and the inhumanity of man. Both films courted controversy due to the violence, animal cruelty, and its appropriateness for children. Both films took liberties with the endings of the books. Both films have had their age ratings from the BBFC and the MPA challenged multiple times. But yes, anything else you want to add?
I think you kind of covered. There was a few there that I'd written down, but yeah, you've kind of covered the. I mean, the big one is the certificate of them, of the age rating of them. That was one of the. It was just reading through and reading that. I think it was in 2021 is when they finally changed it.
Yeah,
It's
PG. They changed it to a PG.
I mean, a 12A, I think, is it?
I would argue it's interesting. Like you mentioned on the Discord, we were talking about like age ratings and what's appropriate, and you know, horror films like, you know, Jaws was, you know, rated, you know, PG. I think, or universal. You know, Poltergeist, which is terrifying, and it has like a guy pulling his own face off. You know, there's so many films you're like, wow, like, you know, these days you probably wouldn't give it the same rating, and that's why they are re-rated, you know, when they come out on a Blu-ray or something like that, 4K or something like that. They do question it, but they do tend to say that they represent the audience at that time, or the social kind of the world as it is at that point, and what they want to reflect at that time. And yeah, so sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it very wrong. Sometimes if it's a big name director like Steven Spielberg or Chris Nolan, they might give it a slightly lower rating, even though it deserves a higher one for marketing purposes. Sometimes they'll create new ones to enable to sell certain films to a certain maybe younger demographic or audience.
Well, that's where 12A kind of came in, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
It was that in between it, but it's not PG, but 15's kind of pushing it. So I think it was like 2010 or something like that. They brought 12A in, and
it was earlier than that. It was in 2002. So, there was a film. So mainly it came up because of Spider-Man. the
Right.
the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because the end fight in that is pretty brutal. It's pretty full on. And it wasn't technically the first 12A. There was a film before it. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was more of a discussion point because loads of kids obviously wanted to see Spider-Man, and they went, well, you have to be accompanied by an adult, and that became like a huge thing. That became the whole
Right.
thing where it kind of became a big thing. And PG-13 was for Temple of Doom, because
Yes.
that again has some really horrifying scenes and disturbing imagery.
Kamika.
Kalima, and all that. So yeah, there's some disturbing stuff in that. You see a man eaten by alligators, all sorts of weird and wacky creatures and things that happen, and very kind of, again, the same with Raiders is pretty full on as well, really, if you look at it. But they were like, Spielberg wanted to sell it and wanted, everyone to see it. It's got a kid in it as one of the lead stars. He wanted kids to go see it. So they made they were like, well, we'll make a new rating, PG-13. And they're like, okay, right.
It's interesting. I mean, we joke about it. It's like growing up, 80s, but the stuff that we watched back in the 80s, you look at VHS, Dave and Mabel have the same kind of stories, and so will Chris. That you had an uncle that, like, yeah, just Cobra, be fine. Predator, yeah, you'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
And you would sit and you'd be watching these things thinking, oh, my, I know I shouldn't be watching this, but this is awesome. Now, you go back and look at them now, and although they are quite full on, I don't think that it's not Terrifier. So the gore and the blood is completely different. The way, so a lot of it was more action than that. And most of the times they had a rating there because there would be a lot of swearing.
Yeah.
Normally 80s knockers are in there at some point. So
those particular the knockers, the 80s style knockers.
Yeah. Chris will know all about them.
He will. It's very familiar with those style of knockers.
But that's where a lot of it came from. So I can kind of understand why. I don't think this ever should have been a U, either of them. But I can kind of also they probably looked at it and thought, oh well, the cartoons. So it's
exactly.
Fine.
This is my point as well. Like, this is my point. I think, like, it drives me mad that, like, there's so many people I've spoken to year on year and year that go, cartoons, they're for kids. What are you watching these for? I'm like, have you seen Perfect Blue that I did the other week? That's definitely not for kids. Yeah, have you seen Akira? Have you seen this? It's a piece of media. It's a type of it's a type of art, and to limit it to being a thing for kids is disingenuous and limits the art form. Like, if I said to you, the only theatrical films we can watch are rom-coms.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing that is on live action film is rom-coms and nothing else. Yeah. Can you imagine all of the opportunities, all the stories we wouldn't have seen because people are going, no, that has to only be a rom-com.
I mean, you see, I've just seen 2 films this weekend. We've seen Good Boy, which is it's not the greatest film ever, but the idea and what they're doing it is so good. It's so clever. They took a chance, and I think it works. I think it works really well. I went the other night to watch I Swear, which I would recommend. I mean, I recommend to you, Dan. I know you're dyslexic like myself.
Yes.
It's different because this is Tourette's, but growing up in the 80s, when people didn't understand that, then I can kind of see certain things. Now, they're films that we should see, and that they're films that, but if you were just having rom-coms, you wouldn't get things like that would take a chance and maybe educate you a little bit.
Yeah.
These are yes, they are cartoons, but there is a good theme behind it. There is an education behind it, and that. So if you just say, "Oh, well, it's cartoons," don't mean no, it's just for kids. You're missing so much, and that, and especially with these films, there's a theme there that he's trying to tell people, trying to make people wake up and see that you would miss.
Absolutely, yeah. It's got a very strong. Both of these have very strong messages and go about it in very different ways. But yeah, I have to agree. Again, it's like if I said, "Oh, we can only do costume period dramas in a book." And all fiction books are now costume period dramas, or
So
they're
it's all
all
right.
yeah. We could say, yeah. It just seems mad to me that people just all of a sudden, like, it was like when I was a kid, they went, "Oh, comic books are rubbish." It's kid stuff. And I'm like, have you read this? Have you read Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear? It's absolutely drenched in blood here. Like, that's not a kid thing. It never would be.
The thing is, you don't walk into, people probably do, but you don't, when you walk into an art gallery, you don't walk in and go, that shouldn't be on the wall. It's like David, is there in all his glory. You don't, I know people complain, but you don't have people going around going, let's put a leaf there, we can't show his genitals and things like that.
There are people that do that. There are people that want to do that.
But you should be allowed to express your things, and this is just another form of expression.
Exactly. I will say, obviously, they anthropomorphize the animals, so they have human characteristics, but then they're never not like Donald Duck. You know what I mean?
No.
They're always still a rabbit. It's still a dog. It still behaves and acts like a dog. But it's for us to empathize with those creatures and their peril and their plight, but also to empathize with the real people, human beings they represent as well. Especially in Plague Dogs, and we'll get into that. But yeah, there's a reason. But yeah, I can understand why people go, "Oh, it's animated. The rabbits are a little bit cute, a little bit cutesy, so it should be okay." And again, even back in those days, it was still like problematic. People still had issues with it, but most of the people who know the books are like, no, these adaptations are the book. They represent the book in a good way. From what I've read and the research I've done on it, they seem to be, quite, faithful adaptations. Anyway, let's get to brass tacks. So let's talk about the classic that is Watership Down. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the plot in general, as best you can?
Right, I'm not going to read anything. I'm just going to go with what I remember.
Go for it.
We kind of start off, and I think, is it Flip? It's like a sun kind of god.
Frith, I think. Frith, I think they call it. Yeah.
And it's going around, and it's like all the animals are kind of playing and doing their own things, and the rabbit, Alpha, I think it is.
Althera. I want to say Althera.
There's a lot of weird names that they kind of go with.
Sure.
He's like just kind of taking the piss, to be fair. So it goes to bless all the creatures and that, and the rabbit is kind of blessed on its tail. And then because he's been so whimsical and kind of, off doing his own things, all the other animals are against him and that. We then kind of go to this warren, and we have, I think his father is having a premonition of something, and he kind of sees that there's, something's going to come, something's bad, and they have to go, and then it's a story of a band of rabbits kind of trying to find somewhere better, trying to make something better of their life because they don't want to be stuck, and they're worried about something. And then you have another set of power, which is then kind of, trying to oppress them and stop them doing, not following the orders, following the scheme. So that's kind of the idea of it.
Yeah. So Fiverr has, like you said, a premonition. We have that wonder. I love the opening. I think it's amazing, the opening, which is kind of like this mythological kind of tale, fable, or text about this kind of trickster god rabbit who's like, they're multiplying too much, so the god has to say, you got to behave yourselves, stop doing this, and he's like, nah, don't want to do it. So then he curses him and gives all the other animals like bloodlust, like a need for meat, because before they're all like vegetarians, and they're herbivores, and then all of a sudden they're all the enemies of the rabbit, all of them. But he does give him a blessing and gives him the legs and the tail and the ears so he can hear his enemies and stuff, even though he has turned somewhat the world against him. There's that great line where it's like, if they catch you, they will kill you.
Yeah.
But they have to catch you. And again, he's got he's jumping, running, he's got those big leaping legs and stuff. So, yeah, and it's told in a very different form of kind of animation and style, but it's almost like cave paintings in a way, which I thought was really, really cool.
I mean, the art style throughout the film, it's just, I just love, I mean, I love art. I love, I used to love doing it when I was at school. That it was one of my passions. The whole film is shot perfect, and it doesn't feel like it's dated.
No, absolutely.
It doesn't feel like it's aged really that much. I mean, art's one of those things where you can look at anything, and to be fair, it can stand out of time anyway. But this is just, it's so beautifully drawn, and a lot of it is all hand drawn, and that how they've done it. So, but yeah, it just, that kind of switch between the kind of the mythological story to then you then kind of come across the fields to the below, and that, but it's just so beautiful how they've kind of done it.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to kind of launch into it, and we do get this kind of beautiful kind of language as well. And I think what's great about it is they don't really explain what the words mean. They don't go, "Oh, this word means this," or "This word means that." Like Hazel Ra. So Ra means like leader or or hero or champion or whatever you want to call it. And they're like, oh, Hazel Ra, he's going to be, or Woundworth Ra, it would be, but he's general. He wants to be a general. And yeah, there's like little bits of that. And again, in a modern film, they'd just be like, well, this means this. I can't believe you don't know this. And this. And then they're like they talk about a car and they call it the Harumther or something, the Harumga. And you're like, what the fuck is that? And then they show you and you're like, right, I get it. Because the noise is like, there are moments where I'm like, oh, that's a farm. I was like, well, how do you know the word for farm? Wouldn't it be a different, one of these kind of cool little rabbit words or whatever the language is that they use or borrow from? There are moments of that, but I'm glad they don't they don't have a scene where, someone has to teach us all the words. We just eventually pick them up as we go along.
I like that as well, because they don't treat you like an idiot.
Yes.
Because they will mention a name, but then they will kind of show you what it is as well, without them kind of going, this is Harumph, and look what it is. And here we go, it's very much kind of, oh, the Harumph got him. And it's like, what? And then you kind of twerk, or maybe you do. You catch on to what the kind of, what they're trying to say. So there's a language there that you pick up as you go along, but you're not having to be kind of spoon-fed it. And that
absolutely,
is very much kind of, I'm sure you're old enough, I'm sure you're wise enough to kind of get along with this and understand what we're kind of telling.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it never talks down to anybody. It never talks down to the audience. We kind of get the gist, and we're off on this kind of adventure. This very, very classic kind of style of adventure, and these classic kind of characters who I think the way they're all depicted as well. Like you just need to see some of the characters and you're just like, oh, I really don't like him already. And before you even hear the voice, you just see the design and you're like, oof, no, I don't like him. Or you see, I think it's like Blackavar or something, which is the rabbit that's been tortured and had his ears ripped, and and he's there as an example for anyone who tries to escape the Warren, and you know what he's going to be like, and you know how he is, and you're like, yeah, and we see that kind of flashback and story of how that happens as well. So yeah, I think the designs of the characters, the way they emote as well, the eyes and the use of it. Again, it never gets to a point where it's like these are now cartoon characters; they are still rabbits. And I think it's a wonderful kind of balance between the realism, because the first shot of the rabbit in the real, because this is occurring in our world, quote unquote. We see a shot of a rabbit a very wonderfully painted, like the cover of the book, I think. And then you zoom in, and it becomes the kind of cartoon version, and they're telling their story from their perspective. So yeah, I think it's such a beautifully done, crafted, and created world that we instantly kind of thrust into. Again, we've had this kind of interesting little mythological thing, a myth or legend, what have you, and then we're straight in. And yeah, it doesn't waste any time either. It goes straight in. These are our characters. We've got Fiver, who's kind of they call him the run to the litter, don't they? They let us know exactly what he is. And he has his brother, who is Hazel, who is the main John Hurt lead character, arguably, and the leader of Watership Down later on in the story. And we meet them, and Fiver has, like you said, these premonitions, and he's seeing just the whole area covered in blood. And again, wonderful use of just the visuals and the painted kind of backgrounds and that encroaching kind of pool of blood, and it's terrifying, it's horrible, and we see more and more of this imagery, nightmarish imagery that you're already very concerned. But
it's very simplistic. I think that's the thing. It doesn't try to do too much. It's very kind of, and again, this kind of goes back to the animals. That the animals would only understand certain things. So it is very much kind of the field is covered in red, and just little smidges that is kind of, and it's a feeling, and you have that feeling with him as he's kind of cowering on the floor, kind of, it's all going dark, and that you kind of feel what Fiver's going through, and that, so that there's a sense of dread coming, and it's like, yeah, I get it, I get what for whatever reason this, I kind of I understand you, and I'm with you. I've been following you.
Yeah, because Hazel says as well that this isn't the first time. Like, he's done this before, and he's always been right. So that's why he doesn't doubt it. He's like, no, we've got to go. We've got to leave. And he goes down, and he has to speak to Bigwig, who's like the bodyguard of the main kind of leader of the Warren. And he eventually goes down and gets to meet him. And he's like, oh, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, we've got to leave. There's a danger. Fiver's always been right with these dreams he has, so we must go. And he's like, oh, why leave? Meh. And again, it's just this kind of leader who's lazy and like doesn't want to be involved.
One of the things is like, it's mating season. Why are we going? It's like, all right, come on, fella. It's just known as Chief Rabbit, and I do kind of feel for him to a certain degree, because like, part of you, someone just comes up to you and says, oh, we need to leave because I've had a bad dream. It's
yeah,
like,
true.
No, we're not going to get everybody to go up and just move someone else just on a hunch. So I get the point of it, and that he can't just, because he's got to think of the entire Warren. Sure, he can't just think of just one person. But the problem is, he's just, like you say, he's just too lazy, and he's set in his ways, and he's like, I can't be asked. Instead of maybe...
He's comfortable. He's become very comfortable, I think, is the problem. And that's the danger in kind of, that kind of apathy that he has. He just goes, it's fine. We'll figure it out. It's fine. And I think it's what it is. It's Hazel's belief in Fiver and his commitment to Fiver, and what he believes is what convinces the other rabbits. Because they wouldn't necessarily go off him, but he is determined to do this and to get away. And again, the soldiers trying to stop them, and and Bigwig, he decides to join, and knocks the other soldiers down that's stopping them. And then more and more rabbits join in the middle of the night, and they leave. And that is and that's the start of this kind of journey, this odyssey, if you will.
Well, I think Bigwig kind of, once he's listened and he's heard the story and the way that Chief Rabbit's like, he kind of thinks, you should be doing something.
Yeah,
you should
anything.
At least go find out and check out what's, is there something else coming on? Because we don't want to be here, and then, next thing we're all dead. And it's Captain Holly that tries to stop him, and it's Bigwig just takes him out. And it's that line of, come back again and I'll kill you. And it's like, again, kids' film.
Yeah.
But like you say, it is that thing of Hazel kind of thinking, well, my brother, he's been right before. I've got to support him. I've got to go with him. And then that kind of whispers go around the warren, and they're like, yeah, we're going to come with you. You know, why can't they? I mean, I suppose the Chief Rabbit doesn't want the Dose to go with them and that, but it's like,
No.
if they want to go, let them go. But obviously, it's that thought of if he goes, how many more are going to kind of leave us? And that, so that's when the I can't remember what the police force or the
Oh yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. What
I
it was
wrote it
called.
down somewhere.
Yeah.
The Houseler.
That was it. The Houseler. Yeah, that was right.
Yeah, that's the police force, and that is like to try to stop them, and then they're like, it's that sneaking in between. But I could see this story being retold as, you know, having humans in this point.
Yeah.
And that, you know, but there is that kind of story there telling you about man, and man just basically just comes along. Because I mean, there's a point where, I don't know if it's Hazel says that, you know, they've always hated us, man's always hated us. And it's like, no, they haven't. They just don't understand us. They don't think. And that, which is true, right? I mean, that's the thing. Developers go, there's a plot of land there, we're going to take it. And they don't think about what happens with the wildlife that's there and what's going to happen. You know, when they're chopping trees down and things like that, you know, that affects the planet. That's going to mess us up. You know, sometimes
absolutely.
it is a case of just think of what your actions are going to cause.
Yeah, well, we that's the thing is, like you said, we kind of, once we learn that there's a danger, we don't know what it is, but we zoom out and we see a big kind of billboard saying that this is going to be, you know, development land, or they're going to build, you know, houses in a town or something like that. So we know what the danger is now. But they leave before they experience it. But like you were saying, this could be a real life story with real life people. You know, this could be Palestine, couldn't it? You know, there's a line later on that fight, like you said, like Hazel Ra goes, you know, he goes, oh, they've always hated us, and he's like, no, they don't hate us. We were just in their way. Like it's not even. I mean, there's probably hate there. You know, obviously with the Israeli-Palestine conflict, obviously. But it's almost like we just want that land. You're just in our way. We want the land more so, and we'll do whatever we need to do to get that land, you know, regardless of what lives we have to take, what we have to do. So yeah, absolutely. Like it does, you know, you could, you know, and these, like, if you think of these, like these myths and legends, you know, like the Greek myths and stuff, we don't like cherry pick them or like change details or censor them, do we? You know, Zeus is still going around shagging people as animals or raping women as animals. You know, we don't go, oh, we won't do that bit, or we change that bit, or we won't have that bit. We'll go, you know, I'll censor it. But like, this is what this is. This is like a fable, a story. And again, you know, those ancient Greek myths have violence, have, you know, very dodgy things happen in them. And I think there's that in this as well. There's when we see the extreme violence and stuff, you know, those old fairy tales that Disney converted into happily ever after, they weren't happily ever after. They were very disturbing and
they
dark.
All Brothers Grimm's tales,
yeah, like the Brothers
Grimm.
The Brothers Grimm. But usually it's like a warning. Usually it was like, don't do this. Don't go out at night. Don't, you know. There were a way to keep people safe, or to you know, not go out at night time. You know, there's a vampire, there's a werewolf, there's a, you know, whatever. You know, it's not necessarily that there was one out there, but if they believed it enough, that would stop them from going out and being in potential danger. And yeah, there's an element of that here, and yeah, this could be, you know, like the Odyssey or the Iliad or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There is that kind of scale to it. You know, even though it's obviously, you know, just English bunnies knocking about and doing their thing, you know, there is the drama is real. You buy into the drama, the stakes, and the story, because, you know, these characters are killed off, you know, very quickly and like very suddenly. like you've got that poor Violet who's like, you know, Fiver wakes up.
Just going to say that.
Yeah, like, you know, again, a character that's not in the book, you know, but she's in this to provide a point that nature is deadly and unpredictable. And she goes off and she, starts nibbling away at something. Then Fiver looks away for a second, looks back, and there's just like a tuft of hair because a hawk has had her and has gone off. And they just go, yeah, that's horrible. Got to move on though. So they start moving again because they know they need to find wherever they're getting to. And much like in the Plague Dogs, there's that doubt that they'll find somewhere. There's that doubt they'll be safe. There's the doubt that this was even worth it, or that whether they should go back, or whether they should plow on with this treacherous journey. And plow on they do. But yeah, like I thought that was a good kind of way of kind of setting the stakes.
I think that's a good point with not for Violet, obviously, but showing that there is danger, because at that point we've only really dealt with the rabbits. We've had a bit of tussle between the rabbits and that. But Hazel, I think a few times Big Wig's like, we need to rest. It's like just a little bit further. And it's pushing them on and on to find somewhere safe, which they kind of do. Unfortunately, Violet just strays a little bit too far. But then that shows you how quick it's gone. And that's it. She's no more. And it then makes you realise that big wide world out there is very dangerous to these rabbits. Just simple little things. We get a moment later with a dog around the on the river, and that that kind of that fear of. I mean, they're very quick, they're very clever that they use the plank of wood to get them across, and that. But I think if you don't see the part with the bird, the dog probably won't be quite as worried, because you'd think, oh, right, it's a dog. Yeah,
but
maybe.
But for us, it's man's best friend, isn't it? But for a rabbit, that's a fucking monster.
It is. I mean, it's a monster if you can channel it in the right way. Very intelligent, these characters. And I like that they use. It's not like, because again, they're not warriors. You've got Bigwig, who can do certain things, but then they're not warriors, not born to be or bred to be warriors. No. They are just people trying to figure it out. Their thing is they can hear and they can run. It's kind of said in the first part of the movie that is it, that's what they can do. They're not warriors. They're not going to fight a dog, really. No. I mean, even a cat. We have that moment with the cat later on.
Yeah.
And that, I mean,
I love when they go into the woods very early on, and the badger like pops his head out, and he's just eaten. He's got the blood dripping down, and they absolutely shit a brick. And they're like, "Oh, we're so lucky he was just eating, or he would have had us. He would have bloody had us." Oh, And I love that kind of imagery. It reminded me of like Disney's Snow White when they go into the woods, and it's all like, ooh, it's all spinning, and there's some like dark kind of imagery and things like that. It's amazing. I really, again, like some of the best stuff in this is the dark imagery, is the risk, is the, like I remember when I first saw it, I was like, Mum put it on and my sister put it on, and I was like, I don't want to watch this shit, cuddly, bunnies and stuff. But I remember like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Look at this.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is like a real epic kind of hero's journey. And I maybe they showed it at school or something. I can't remember where I saw it first, but I was like, nah, this is fucking metal. I'm here for it. Once they get into the action, and it is brutal. It is, heart wrenching, and you do worry and you are concerned, like that I think is amazing. That's what grabs me about it, because it does something that, again, like we don't expect. This is not a film that is gonna, it's gonna surprise people. It always has. It's always gone, oh shit, that violence, or oh shit, the bad language, oh shit, that rabbit's dead. There's like, you go, oh, it's a surprising film, and it's and it was groundbreaking in a way, like animation wise, and and the way it tells its story, and it doesn't hold back at all. It absolutely goes for it. And I had a friend on Facebook, I think you saw, Math, that I had a friend, Rob, who messaged me because I was joking about how, like, oh, this is horrible and it's going to be scary. It'll be the spookiest thing I've watched this Halloween. And he was like, I went to see it and it was great. It's a lovely story. And my parents told me it was about nature and this is what happens. And it has a sense of, realism. We see human beings knocking about and, holding guns and, trying to, getting caught in snares as well. That's a very gripping scene with Bigwig gets caught in the snare and you don't think he's going to make it, and you're pretty sure he's dead, and the rabbits are pretty sure he's dead, but then he recovers and he comes back, and again, that's the moment where he's like, I've had enough of you, Fiver, because they found somewhere safe, seemingly somewhere safe, and Fiver's like, no, you don't want to stay here, it's mad, and he's like, I've had enough of you, I'm off.
Well, he says it smells of death, and it's like man is dropping in carrots and veggies into a hole and that. But the thing is, when you kind of zoom back a bit and you realise why they're doing that, because there is all the snares around. So they feed the rabbits come, they go into the snares, rabbit pie. That's kind of... And I think that the other rabbits that are in the warren there know full well. And it's like, well, we'll have them, and they can be sacrificial rabbit instead of lamb.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
there's a lot. I mean, as a kid, I never picked up on that, but then watching it years later, and it's like, again, there's more layers to this film than what probably people give credit.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtlety as well. Like it's surprisingly subtle with I think a lot of its themes, like the ecology stuff, and the environmental stuff. I think there's a lot here that it's there's a lot of heavy lifting that message is doing, while still telling a really compelling adventure story. And there's a lot of character kind of development and changes and growth that you see through these characters and the allegiances they make and the enemies they make. Like you said, like in that warren where I immediately saw Cowslip and I went, not good. I don't like him. Really don't like him. And it's like, oh yeah, oh well, it won't be safe, with us. Come on in. And then he says that he doesn't believe in Thrith, and that's not their belief system. And you can see why, because they're just like willing to sacrifice anybody that comes along. And again, they're like, it's too good to be true situation. But yeah, the second I saw him, I was like, you're a wrong'un. You're a definite wrong'un.
It's that thing sometimes in movies you see an actor and you're like, he's a bad guy.
Yeah, true.
You know straight away he's a bad guy, and the way he presents himself is like, yeah, there's something not right about you. And then as you kind of look at it and think, yeah, he knows full well if we sacrifice these rabbits, food keeps coming to us, so we keep kind of living the cushy life, not having to go out there and do anything. And that it's amusing that the fact that it's like The Walking Dead. One of the big things in The Walking Dead, yes, there's zombies, but the more scary thing is the other human beings.
Yes.
And in this, you have it as well. The other rabbits are just as scary as anything else out there because of how regimental they are in certain things, like General Wound War, but also Cowslip are very much kind of, yeah, we'll just sacrifice. It's like a Wicker Man thing, sacrifice him so we keep getting what we want out of this. And it's considering this film's nearly 50 years old, and that to where we are now, how it kind of things have happened in through our history since then. That kind of you can look back at this film and go, well, he said that there. So it's again, I do think it's something that people should watch if you haven't already. I mean, we're spoiling it completely now.
Sure. But again, I think most people, if they wanted to watch it, will probably watch it. I mean, I hope people do. I hope people listen to this and do. You can't, like, I know that some, if you're not comfortable watching something like this with this stuff in, I get it. I understand if you're not comfortable with the violence, the animals, but it is real. It does happen. These things do happen, and that's what the book and the film is trying to bring the message out, that these things do happen and that we're responsible for a lot of these things, the traps and the mowing down of where they live, and all this sort of stuff. So we're bad. If we, again, it's the same banned books thing, isn't it? If we don't watch this, we don't understand the message.
You don't learn.
Exactly. We're not going to pick up on that. Yeah. Again, we don't want to see animals harmed. I don't want to see animals harmed. This whole year, I've tried to not see animals harmed, and all of them doing
Failed.
is films that do animals harm. Even animated ones. So like,
but, I mean, they didn't shy away from what. I mean, there's a moment with the fox when Bigwig leads a couple of the General Woolworth's rabbits into the fox. We don't see that, we hear it. And there's another bit where when Woolworth kind of fights with the dog.
Yes, you don't
see that. But you do see what the dog does beforehand. We do see the badger with the blood dripping down. We do see the rats that, are drawn in a way that they have that kind of evil red eyes kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a moment with the cat when the cat actually gets hit. Yeah, it's Hazel. Is it?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think it is Hazel. Yeah,
it is Hazel because she says, I am faster than you now, when she kind of pins him, and that. But it does show that that's there. It doesn't shy away from it. There's a couple of points where it's like, we don't need to show you this.
Yes, I agree. Like in a way, that, like it's brutal. Don't get me wrong, and it does highlight those moments, like when Hazel's shot, or like any of the sequences. But I think you're right. I don't think it ever goes. I mean, arguably, some people will say it goes too far. And again, it's not a kids' film, but the thing about animation is you can take things further. Like even the most. Let's say, I don't know, Batman film, a really violent Batman film. Like as violent as they are, they still have an audience for children. There's still something there, and there's something about either cartoon characters or like animated characters, CGI characters, like in that Incredible Hulk film, which I quite like, with Tim Roth and Edward Norton. The Hulk pulls out one of the Abomination's bones and stabs him with it. That is like, if that was in a PG-13 film of two humans doing that, they would say you can't show that in a 12A. But because it's two animated green Goliaths, they're like, they're just mutants, so it's fine. It's green blood, it's fine. There's things you can push and take risks with in animation and show animation, where you wouldn't be able to do that with the same age rating as a live action film.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the DC stuff, it's like, I remember getting some Green Lantern things that Alex watched many years ago, and watching them with him and thinking, these are kind of DC really do push it.
Yeah.
And it's like that some of it's a bit show, don't tell. No. What way around is it?
You want to show and don't tell.
Yeah.
But if you tell and show, that's bad. Yeah.
But it's like the bit when with the fox, when you don't see it but you hear it, your mind kind of fills that in.
Exactly.
General Woolworth and the dog, your mind fills that in. In animations, when you do see, like, Batman breaks a bone or something like that, it's animated, but your mind also kind of thinks, hang on a minute, and it kind of, although it's on screen, your mind takes that a little bit further. So you can get away with it and that with a cartoon to a certain degree, but your mind will fill in them blanks, and that's where you kind of have to think, how brutal actually is this being shown? And that, and again, when you're kind of showing kids, you have to kind of understand. It's like I said, I wouldn't show George this year because it's far too much for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that even some of the stuff he watches on YouTube, it's like, no, let's change the channel there. We're not watching that one.
Fair enough.
And that, but you do kind of have to each child is, that they're individual, so you have to work out what they can and can't take, and that. But yeah, I do think it's one of those things where you can get away with a lot more with an animated film and kind of get a message across. The problem as well is, unless you're kind of going for an 18, and that, and even then, sometimes it's like I don't like the Terrifier films. They go far too much for me, and that. But that's a problem for you to show kind of a bone break, or like being chopped up or something like that. They really have to go overboard with it. Whereas in this, they don't, but it still gets that message across.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And yeah, again, there are those moments, but like you said, there is some pulling back of that. They could show, and it could go on longer, but it doesn't, because it knows that's not the point. We don't want to see, as much as we don't like General Woundwort, we don't want to see him savaged by a dog.
No.
Like, we don't want that. We even the worst of the worst, we don't want to see that happen too. And you're right, we don't want to see that happen to this or that. We don't want to see the cat get hurt. We don't want to see the dog get hurt particularly, or the rabbit. We don't want to see the rabbits die. But again, we have to have those stakes. We have to have the darkness with the light. Them triumphing over the darkness is only that much, more kind of valuable and kind of successful and triumphant, the darker the enemy and the evil is they've overcome, the problems they've overcome. And that's why, because those dark moments are so dark and so deep and depressing and sad, only makes, when they do win, that much more like triumphant, and you're like, yes, you did it, you figured it out, you did this, you did that, you defeated them. You managed to cross the river away from the dog or Woundwort, or there's moments where, like, the characters stumble or make mistakes, or and then they still kind of make up for that, or find the inner strength, or find a way to figure it out.
They're learning, aren't they? I mean, it does have humor in this. I mean, Kiara is kind of a bit of a.
Reminded me of the seagull from Little Mermaid a little bit.
Yes. Well, yeah. But he's there as a bit of a kind of lightheartedness to it.
Sure.
And that. Yeah, I mean, his first words are, piss off. It's like, okay. All right. Again,
apparently that wasn't in the script, apparently, but it's in the film, so there you go.
But it works. That's the thing. It does actually work with what's kind of going on at the time. But they kind of help and nurse him, so kind of, and they're very clever as well. When it's like, there's no doors around it. It's like, you've got no mates. You've got, and it's like, yeah, why don't you help us? So they kind of convince him that it's his idea to go find the mates and that. But having that light humor in there, just kind of, it changes, the shift a little bit in the movie, because the thing is, you don't want it to be completely dark all the time. You need to have a bit of light in there, and it works really well. But then, and it's not like they overuse him too much, but is there enough just to kind of, just to break them scenes up a little bit more? But I do like Kiara. I think,
I did struggle understanding him a lot. It's like a really strong accent, and it's almost like the rhythm, the way he speaks is very almost disjointed as well. Like he's kind of like Eastern European or Russian,
and it's like his microphone's cutting out at times.
Yeah, a little bit.
It kind of like he makes sense, but there is that kind of strange accent to it. I can't quite pin what it was.
Yeah, I feel like it's some kind of that Slavic kind of voice. But I know what you mean. But I guess in a way, because he's a different animal, they're going to struggle to understand him, because they start kind of speaking to him like, you need to do this. This is how we work. Because like there's like almost like a language barrier or an
it's like
understanding.
Brits abroad when we go abroad and we go.
Yeah, we get louder and more annoying and slower. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Dos cerveza, por favor. That sort of thing. The louder you get isn't going to make them understand you anymore.
No,
any better. But yeah, yeah, I like the character, and I think he's there for as long as we need him to be. He doesn't outstay his welcome, I think.
He's not overused. That's the thing, you know. He's
used as kind of a, like you said, the comedic, character, the comedy relief character. But also he's can attack. He scares Woundwort because he's like, oh my god, they're friends with a bird, and it dive bombs him, and it terrifies him, and they manage to like pretend that he's coming back as well, and he's like, oh, where, that sort of thing.
The bird's there. What?
Yeah,
and then they make them escape.
And then obviously he has to go away because later on they can't have him save the day again. They have to figure something else out. So I'm kind of glad he left when he did, because it makes that final sequence all the more tense, because he's not there to assist them, I think.
Well, I mean, that's that kind of final thing, and that if you'd just rehashed it out, someone still has to take Woundwort down. The problem is, if you have Hazel or Bigwood do it, it's like, well, why wouldn't they have done it earlier? Whereas I think having something so powerful like the dog to take out, it's like having Jason kind of coming along and all of a sudden he just trips over and he falls on his knife. It's like, oh dear.
Yeah. I mean, we've set up the dog, we've set up the farm, we've set up the cat, and they all come, they're all used effectively later on, in the finale. And yeah, again, we have the kind of to and fro in and trying to outsmart them and get away from them, and like trapping them and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I think it's right. I think they make the right decision within that story.
Yeah, check off smoking farm.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because that's where the does are. That's where they keep going back to, and then and that helps. But yeah, they don't actually. Do any of the does get away from the farm? I don't think they do. I think some die or they get trapped there, don't they? And then they go to the to Woundwort's warren and start going undercover. Bigwig goes undercover and tries to join them and infiltrate, because we've found out from what was his name? He attacked at the start. Bigwig attacked at the start. His name?
It's Captain Holly.
Holly, yeah, because he turns up randomly and talks about what happened at the original warren and what occurred. And you see this again, these wonderful, like, nightmarish visuals of all the rabbits being crushed and going underground and having their warrens holes filled in and torn up. But again, they're not showing it in the conventional style that we're seeing the rest of the film in, or even the mythological style. It is like kind of this mist turning into blood.
It's like a shadow into it of a dark rabbit.
Yeah, and we see the black rabbit. I can't remember the name for the black rabbit, but that is like the spectre of death, and who works for Frith the god, and he is the end, and he keeps popping up as we see throughout the film, and he even guides Fiver to Hazel Ra when he's shot, and then Kiar takes out all the pellets, the shotgun pellets, to kind of heal him up. So yeah, we get this wonderful imagery throughout. And I want to talk about the song "Bright Eyes" as well, because I think it's a banger. I think it's an absolute banger. Bright eyes. I sing that quite a lot, just in general in my life. I don't know, it's just a thing I do. Like one of the songs that kind of comes back to me a lot. And I know that tune, and I and it stayed with me like all these years. Like, it's strange how like something. I don't think I've ever seen the thing all the way through. I've maybe seen it in bits before, but that song has always stayed with me. Not the lines or the characters, but that song is, I think, it's very, very powerful.
It is. I mean, I'll not lie. Once I kind of came on at that point, that I did get a bit of a lump in my throat a bit, because, again, I think it took me back to being young to kind of seeing that thing, because, in that moment there, it is a case of Hazel's gone, and Fiver's like, no, he isn't. No, he isn't.
Yeah.
And you've got that hope in you, kind of, inside you thinking, oh, come on now, just we saw him shot. We just didn't see the outcome as such. And you even though, 40 odd years later, I do know that he's fine.
Yeah, sure.
And that,
But
still,
but to be fair, in this film, we've seen so much death that he could be dead. He could
Definitely.
easily be dead. Like it definitely be dead. But it's Fiver's belief, and again, the rabbit leading. The spectre of death leads him and guides him. To Hazel again. But yeah, like it's powerful. I think again the imagery, the way it's animated. And again, this mix between kind of the conventional animation, the storybook, the hand-drawn kind of backgrounds, and again, the different styles of animation and the different ways of presenting those ideas and those memories, those images. And I think it's just, again, it's a masterclass in animation, I think. Given their budget, given their time, they're not Disney, let's be honest, they don't have the same resources. But I think given the subject matter in the book that it's based on, I think it's so strong. I will say this though, the writer of the original book did not care for the song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't like it. Didn't care for it. It was like, I think it was too soppy or something for him, I think.
Right.
But I like it.
It's meant to be a touching moment.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
That's that. It's Art Garfunkel, isn't it? Who does,
Yes,
who
yeah, it
does
is.
sing it?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't write it, but he sung it. Yeah.
El Ha, that's who is the rabbit god.
Ah, okay, right. That was
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think
I
forgot. There's so many, like, again, this is like another Star Wars podcast. There's so many like weird names we've got to remember.
Yeah.
It's like, not again. But yeah, in general, I really, really, really like this film. I think it is a classic. There's a reason it's still talked about to this day. Like we said, 50 years on or however long it's been, it's still considered, very influential and very, very powerful. And again, it holds up for me,
Yeah.
I love animation. I always have. And I like animation that takes risks as well and pushes the envelope. And this one certainly does in a lot of respects.
Oh, and we do get our happy ending at the end.
Yes, we do.
They do find the hill, the warren,
Watership down. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and that, and then we do then see Hazel. Years, months, not quite sure. You can tell
definitely.
he's old because he's got a little bit.
However, I think it's I think I think it's like three or four seasons. I think we see, and he's old. So yeah, because they've got obviously their age, is based on is short. Their lifespan is shorter than ourselves. But yeah, and he's met by the Black Rabbit, and he's like, oh, do you want to? It's time. You can rest now. You can come with us. We all really want to meet you. And he's like, oh yeah, just you're getting tired now, aren't you? You're feeling tired, your limbs are heavy. Oh yeah. And he looks at the warren, and he's like, he sees all the new parents and kids and stuff that he's helped, the warren, the kind of paradise he's helped create, and he's like, they'll be fine, don't worry about them, they'll be fine. And yeah,
I think that's a touching moment, the fact that it's a fact. I mean, it's his time to go. But it's the fact that he comes in, it's like, do you want to come with me? And it's like, don't worry, I will look after that. But you can come, you've served your purpose, you've done your best, it's now your time to rest. And that's the bit that kind of has that touchy moment where you can think, oh, right, okay. We do get, even though he passes away, we still get a happy ending to it.
Yes, yeah. Again, I think a lot of people just remember, again, like the beginning of the film, the middle of the film, towards the end, and then the brutal kind of battle between Bigwig and Woundwort as well,
which is we've not really said, but
yeah, it's pretty full on. Like, and there's some proper you do see like some proper dead rabbit bodies and things like that. But yeah, that fight is intense. I don't care. Between two very, arguably not cuddly rabbits, but between two rabbits, you wouldn't expect a fight quite so brutal.
Yeah, because I think, is it back of Boomwalk?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was just remember. Yeah,
takes him out.
because because he stands up because he escapes the warren with the does and I can't remember the female rabbit there with Bigwig, but they escape and he goes, right, I'm going to stand up to him, and Woundwort literally just like one bite done, and he's like,
Yeah.
there's, and the body just kind of lands like, and then he's just right, Bigwig's next. Very terrifying kind of villain. Woundwort, and I like the fact that he becomes the boogeyman, the rabbit boogeyman, to keep all the children in line.
Which kind of comes back to what you were saying before, when we used to tell stories to try and keep kids in check to a certain degree. It's like, General, do as you're told, or General Woundwort will come out and get you.
Is coming back, yeah. Part of me did kind of want a bit more of a resolution. Like, I'd like to have seen where the other characters were, or what happened to them, or what their story was. I know they did do a sequel book, which is like various stories from the Watership Down universe, if you will, like various short stories that they collected. But yeah, part of me would like to know what happened to Fiver or Bigwig and what the situation is. But I imagine they're probably dead now anyway. I imagine Hazel is the last one. But I think I think it's a perfectly fine ending. It's part of the nature of it. It's part of they've done their job. They've accomplished so much. They've overcome so much, and now it's time to kind of to rest, and to have that ending. And again, I think people do like, oh, the ending was really horrible. I was like, I don't think you've seen it. I don't think you've really watched it, or truly, you just remember these extreme moments.
Yeah.
From it.
Well, that's the thing. The ending is actually it's perfect for what it needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you said there. Hopefully, Marvel don't get this, and we don't get the WDU. Watch it down universe. But the thing is, Hazel's the main thing. So knowing how Hazel finishes, and the fact that you see that kind of thing with the Black Rabbit and him being taken, you assume that's happened elsewhere with the others.
Yeah, of course.
We don't see what happened to Fiver, but still, I think you would prolong and lose that ending by doing it for everyone.
True, yeah. Maybe if we saw, because he does say his friends are waiting for him, so I guess it's implying that they're all there waiting to run with him and play with him once he dies. But there was part of me that was kind of like, oh, is this? We have this massive time jump, and I was like, oh, okay. But again, I don't dislike it. There was just one small part of me that was like, oh, I kind of wish we'd known a bit more, or what happened. But again, they're rabbits. What they're gonna, what they're gonna do. What they're gonna do. They're gonna fuck a lot, and they're gonna multiply, and that would be
Which is if start of the film. That's the reason why they got in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but no, I'm so glad I revisited this, because I think, again, this has a reputation that I don't think is necessarily earned. Again, I agree. I don't think it's suitable for most children, unless they're maybe early teens or, tweens maybe. And again, maybe preparing them in some form that what this is going to be and what it's going to be about. I think is a good idea, but I generally think it's a beautiful film, beautifully told, and again has a great message and has interesting characters, has genuine peril that you and genuine kind of feeling and emotion, and again we kind of carries us away, and it never stops kind of for a minute. There's always something kind of like going on. I was never bored, know. And again, I feel like that I hear there's a lot more in the book. Is quite a long book, and I think they condense a lot of the stuff, but actually we don't lose that much of the book. They just kind of truncate it and shorten the kind of the elements, but it keeps that pace kind of going. And I'm like, right, next one, next thing. We're at the farm, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, what they're doing. Oh, there's rats are attacking. Oh shit, there's so much kind of going on. And again, we're still not kind of like hit over the head with like exposition. We're not hit over the head with more information than we need. We're just told exactly what we need to do, and it's not kind of spoon fed to us. We just carry along, and we know exactly what we need to know.
I think because they kind of do it in scenes. It's like obviously they've had to draw the background, and then they
Sure.
kind of how they animate over the top of that. So they are kind of limited to work in certain spaces.
Sure.
So it's like, right, this is section 8, but it don't feel like it is broken. It
No.
feels like they gel all together, and you kind of deal with
Yeah.
the scene, and then you move on to the next scene, and there's a
Like-
flow to it.
Yeah, like when we did, like me and Andy did Wizards with Ralph Bakshi, like he's known for kind of cutting corners and doing it on the cheap, which is kind of, again, very entertaining and is kind of revolutionary in its own way, and like reusing the animation to cover up the flaws or the faults.
What's that film that you did? It's like Star Wars, but not.
Turkish Star Wars?
No,
No, not that one.
No.
Was
is
it Wizards?
the last-
Was it Wizards?
No,
Was it Wizards?
the last Starfighter, where he reused
Oh.
the same.
Oh, maybe.
scene.
Oh, not Turkish Star Wars. No, maybe. Yeah, there's probably something I've talked about. I'm
can't
sure there's
remember.
something I've talked about. I've talked about so many things I can't remember
Yeah,
now.
I know. It
But,
was just certain sci-fi thing, and they just basically like, right, I've got this now, and it just kind of kept popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
And you just reuse it over and over. and
Might
over
be
again.
maybe it was Battle Beyond the Stars, maybe something like
That's
that.
it.
Maybe
That's what
yeah,
it was.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking that because Corman paid so much for those special effects, he was like, I'm going to use these for the
Fucking
rest of
use
time.
these.
You're like, you find a sci-fi film he does, he will use those effects, the same effects from Battle Beyond the Stars, without a doubt. But yes, yeah. But yeah, I think we've talked enough about Watership Down. Is there anything else you want to mention before we move on?
No, I think we could move on to.
I've actually got one thing I'd like to mention. Now, a few years back, Channel 5, for whatever reason, I don't know who programmed this, but it always makes me chuckle. Somebody put Watership Down on Channel 5 on Easter Sunday. And I think that is the ballsiest move.
Peter, get me a rabbit film. I've got one for you, sir.
Don't worry. I've got the bunnies. We've got the rights to it. Don't
There
worry.
you go.
It's
It's that
very
thing where we said,
wholesome. Very
Easter Sunday. Sit
yeah,
down with the
perfect.
kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or Passion of the Christ, I guess. So those are the ones, and they're both as bloody as each
Hop.
other, I guess. Hop, yeah, or whatever else. What are the other bunny films? Yeah, I don't imagine Hop's very violent though.
No.
So yeah, you got Passion of the Christ or Watership Down. What are we doing? But yeah,
Don't
so
know
like,
which is worse.
but the thing was, not only, and they got a ton of complaints. It was in the news. They were like, "Why are you showing this? It's inappropriate. It's violent. It's gruesome. Blah blah blah." The same thing. They did the same thing the following year. I swear to God, they did the same thing the following year. They put it on again because I think it was just to maybe drum up some like publicity and stuff. But yeah. Let's move on to Plague Dogs unless you have anything to say.
No, I think that sounds typical Channel 5.
It does sound
fuck
Channel
it.
5.
Hip
Don't
hooray.
worry. Don't worry. Speaking of 80s knockers, yeah, I watched some late night Channel 5 in my time, about 25 or so years ago now. But moving on to Plague Dogs, Maff. This is again a very different story, but yeah, again done by the same writer, producer, and director, and again based on another Richard Adams book. But this is all about. I'll do the plot for this one because I'm nice. I'll do the plot. So we follow two dogs who are in a laboratory being experimented on, and various animals are being experimented on, chimps and rats and bunnies, you name it. And these dogs are being experimented on as well. And they just so happen to escape their confinement, and they go and try and live off the wild as best they can in the kind of Yorkshire Dales, I guess, or the Yorkshire kind of countryside.
Districts.
Yeah, Lake District. Sorry, yeah, Lake District. You are correct. Sorry, yeah, the Lake District. So they try and do their best, and they're not really accommodated. They're somewhat domesticated, and they're trying to get back to their wild roots of what dogs used to be. But they cause all sorts of trouble, and a kind of a huge conspiracy theory and kind of event in this town goes from worse to worse, and they become, public enemy number one for the town. They bring in the military, and all sorts of horrible, depressing things happen. But yeah, this is very much a different kind of story. It's not this kind of rip-roaring adventure. It's not this kind of group of heroes. It's very much about why the fuck are we doing this to animals, to dogs especially. Man's best friend. I think the tagline for the film on the poster was "Man's best friend encounters his worst enemy," which is also man, funnily enough. So yeah, we meet Rolf and is it Slitter?
Snitter.
Yes, Snitter. Sorry, yes, Snitter. And one of them is, I'll be honest, the opening of this film is absolutely fucking heart destroying. It's awful. So they're experimenting on Rolf, who is this black Labrador, and they're testing him drowning. Basically, they're giving him this water torture treatment. And they're seeing how long he can last and keep doing it and doing it. It gets better and better and it lasts longer each time. But it's absolutely horrifying because we are seeing this dog drowned on purpose, not for any reason other than scientific curiosity. They are drowning this dog just for the sake of it. And we learn that Snitters had... he was responsible for an accident that happened to his owner that caused his owner to get run over and potentially die. And his brain's been experimented on. So they've tried to blend his subconscious mind with his conscious mind. And much like Fiverr, he's having these kind of nightmarish flashes and dreams of the past. Fiverr would have them of the future, but Snitter has them of the past. And we go into this kind of black and white kind of tableaus of him remembering fondly his master. And the two very different characters. Rolf is very, older, cynical, doesn't like any humans, doesn't trust them. And Slitter's like, I want a master. I need a master. I long for a master. Things will be better. Not all humans are like the lab coats, the white coats that are here. And yeah, and the imagery in this is so much more darker and depressing and much more full on and much more adult than I would say even Watership Down was.
Yeah.
To say the least.
I watched Watership Down first because I thought I've seen it before. I'll just kind of refresh myself and then we'll watch excuse me, I'll watch Play Doh. Well, not afterwards. I'll give myself a little bit of time in between. And I did mention to Amanda, maybe we could watch this one. I don't know what it's like yet. And within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, no, I'm watching this on my own. The fact that when you're hearing the white coats in the background, saying, I wrote it down. He'd been in the pool for 2 hours, 20 minutes, and 53 seconds.
Oh, Jesus.
He'd done, I think they said he'd done like 5 minutes more than previous time. Now, this was obviously a daily thing that they was doing to him.
Yeah.
And he just, why? What experiment makes you drown a dog? It just, I mean, I know this is based back in technically the 70s.
Yeah.
But still, it leads you to question why. And we do see the lab, we do see rats and rabbits and monkeys and all these different experiments. But surely what you actually getting out of this, I just didn't. I mean, it doesn't explain until later on.
No.
It kind of goes into about the bubonic plague, but the heartbreaking thing is you're watching this, you think, and you can go back to, it's a cartoon, but this actually happened. Things like this was actually happening. Now, I don't think that things happen now, but I'm pretty sure there probably are places where people probably still do things like that. If they get caught, they'll get shut down. But unfortunately, this is a reality that this has happened in the past. And as I said, then first 5 minutes, I kind of thought, right, okay. I thought Watership Down was depressing at times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how this one's going to go. And I kind of understand why this was the lesser known one.
Yeah.
And that it was only released in the UK. It never got released anywhere else. And that, and then it actually got taken away, and I think they brought it back only a few years later, a few years ago. I think they've done it on a Blu-ray. But it's like, again, there is a story here, and I will say it's heartbreaking, and it doesn't have that fun that Watership Down has.
No.
And there's not really any of that in this. But there is a story there. Now, I definitely would say this is for 15 plus.
Oh,
at
absolutely.
least.
I would agree.
You know,
minimum.
And even then, I would sit down and I would, sit with whichever child and just explain, look, this is not going to be an easy watch. This is going to be a hard. It's not quite to the same, but it's similar to Schindler's List. It's one of those where I'll not watch it again.
Yeah, I was going to say there is a lot in the book. In fact, there are two characters that are not in the film. One of them is a Holocaust survivor, and one of the doctors at the institute or the lab is a former Nazi. So you know what it's quite clear what they're trying to say here. It's quite clear the parallels they're making of the callousness of these scientists just doing whatever. Like, why do you need to blend, the subconscious and the conscious in a dog? Like, what does that do? What benefit?
Doesn't make sense.
No, but again, it's because they can do it. They do it. They don't. Yeah. Again, it's the Ian Malcolm thing in Jurassic Park. Just because you can do it, but it doesn't mean you should do it. You've got to question that.
Well, like in Watership Down, there's parts where you hear, but you don't see what happens. In this, I mean, we see. I think it's a Yorkshire Terrier or Scottish Terrier. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's laid on floor. It's got like cuts,
like sores and stuff, and like clumps of hair missing,
and it's dead. And like it just shovels it up, and I mean,
the drowning and the dead dog are in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, we then get on to you see Snitter, and his hair's got a big plaster on top of his head.
Yeah,
there's another dog. I don't know what she was called now.
I think he called her Flatface or something. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it just says Pekingese.
Okay,
but. She's like, she says, what's that on top of your head? It smells for me. It smells like what they give me to knock me out, but then bring me back together, back again and make me better. It's like, what the fuck are they doing? I mean, I was quite enraged watching this film because there's many moments you sit there and you just think, how? I don't get it. I don't understand why people do things like this. It just, if someone said to me, do you want to watch a film about animal cruelty? I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
And then, me and you decide to do a podcast on it. Obviously, going into this, I didn't realise. I kind of looked up the film. I kind of read the brief synopsis of it. I thought, okay, right, that's fine. But I didn't know really what I was getting myself into. And as you said, in the first 5 minutes, it sets out very clear that this is not a kid's film.
No, absolutely.
How at any point someone sat down and said, oh yeah, we'll let little Timmy watch this because, it's not going to, do a lot of mental harm to the poor lad. As I say, as an adult, it was a lot. It was a lot to take in.
And again, we're quote unquote mature adults, and we know
within reason.
Yeah, within reason. We know what the world is like. We know there are, like you said, there are places out there. Again, there are far more animal rights activists and environmentalists and ecologists and people fighting for the rights of animals, even to this day. And, there are companies that do shady shit and would probably still do experiment on animals in the strangest and most bizarre ways. But yeah, and again, that's the point of this. It like the fact that you're angry is good. Like the fact that you are angry is again a good reaction. The fact that you were upset is that's a good thing, and that's what the film wants you to do. That's what the film is evoking from you. So it is successful in that. And again, I understand if I want to feel mad and upset and heartbroken about the way these dogs have been treated and misunderstood and scapegoated as well, like, in this, film? No, absolutely not.
It's that commentary of man as us trying to cover our asses all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And that,
exactly.
I mean, as I say, you have moments in Watership Down where you think, it's quite dark, but then there is the lightness to it.
Oh.
But in this, there isn't much lightness in there at all.
No.
There's a
very, very, very fucking bleak, if not like almost nihilistic. It's just doom and gloom. Again, we have these characters that we like and we identify with and we empathize with, but ultimately, we know where this is heading. From minute one, we know where this story is heading. That it's not heading to a good place. I think it, you could argue, oh, well, it starts off really bad and we're going to have this lovely arc and they're going to get to wherever they need to be. But yeah, I'd never got the feeling that things were going to get really much better. And I think that's the inherent tragedy of having one of the characters be so cynical and get more hopeful, especially at the end. And then the other character who's been hopeful and just slowly unraveling through the story, and that juxtaposition of who they are and who they're slowly becoming when faced with these realities.
Yeah, it is. It's that person who's very. I mean, I try to be hopeful in when I review something. I try to, look on the bright side. I would struggle. I mean, there is, because there's a message in this film, and if you can take that away, then for all this is very bleak and very upsetting. If you can take something from this and maybe kind of change something in your life or someone else's life, then it does its job.
It's effective. It's not a bad film. It's just a film about bad things.
Yes, very much. It's a good film. It's, again, the art style is very much the same, and that. But it was traumatizing. It's probably the best way to say.
There is a shorter version as well. I watched the hour and 43 minute version.
Yeah.
Is that the version you watched? Yeah.
Yes.
There is a shorter version. So if you don't want to do like the extra 10 minutes, then put the shorter version on.
Probably could have done with that.
Yeah, probably. There were a couple of scenes I felt were like, yeah, maybe we didn't need this or maybe we didn't need that. But I think it's a beautiful film because how tragic it is. There's a beauty in the finality of life and the shortness of life, and even if it's been a hard life, there's still beauty in that, and there's beauty in it ending as well. There's almost a relief, and I think the characters, and I think it almost, unlike Watership Down, where they're finally kind of relieved because they're safe, they're in the warren. With these dogs, I think the relief is kind of knowing that their suffering is at an end.
Yeah. It's sad. The ending is sad, but then there's a part of you that thinks, at least it's over. At least the suffering is finished. Yeah. At least it's horrible. The thing is, it doesn't actually clarify exactly what happens.
Well, I was going to mention this because if you watch the credits, the credits kind of, you drift because they're in the mist and in this kind of fog, and so just to let you know, spoilers for the ending of the film if you want to watch it. The dogs are, it's implied that they have the plague, so everybody's after them. They're trying to stop them. The lab is trying to get them back, and then the military are called in to basically just kill them. And that's the kind of final kind of climax of the film. And they make it to the beach, and they decide to, because they've never seen the beach, never seen the sea before, they decide to go swimming. Even though Rolf has this fear of water, he follows Snitter in. And overcomes that and will follow him, and believes in him and is hopeful, becomes hopeful like him, because he goes, I see an island. We're almost there. That'll be our paradise. We're almost there. And they're going and they're going and they're going and they eventually the soldiers give up and they turn around and they're struggling and they're getting tired and they get into again where we were at the start of the film with Rolf struggling to stay afloat, and then just as Snitter's giving up, he's like, I must have imagined it can't be real, it was just my broken brain telling me it's there. And Rolf says, no, I can see it, stay with me. And yeah, fucking hell, like it's absolutely heart-wrenching. But during the credits, we see the dogs disappear into the mist, so it's implied that maybe they don't make it.
That's why I turned it off, because I had to go pick up George from school.
Right.
So
well,
there's a bit extra that I've bloody missed out.
It's sort of a kind of vague post-credits thing. So during the credits. So as you travel during the credits, and as the song "Time and Tide," I think the song's called, which is also a very nice song,
which is played right at the start when Rolf is in the pool.
Correct. So again, we've got that kind of symmetry, dramatic symmetry coming in. And as the credits go down, as the mist dissipates, we do see an island. So it's kind of perhaps implying that maybe they did make it. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can kind of view it each way. What's interesting about the ending in the film is in the book, it's actually a happy ending.
Oh, right, okay.
So in the book, Snitter is seen on TV by his owner who survived, so lived in that story in the original book, and goes and manages to find him and adopts Rolf as well. So they get the happy ending, but technically this film's ending was the book's original ending, because the publisher was like, come on, man, give him a happy ending, please. We've been through Watership Down, you know what I mean? Like, let him have, a little something. And he caved. He caved and said, right, this is going to be, we're going to give this a happy ending.
That's nice, but I think the ending where, having the island in the background where maybe they made it, I think that is a better ending. This is a thing like
it's ambiguous, so you can make up your own mind.
Yeah.
But and again, like you said, you didn't see the credits, you didn't see that island.
No.
So for you, if it ended there, it still ended there, and it still ended well.
I saw him in the water, I saw the mist, and I kind of thought, and the way it kind of just faded off, I just thought, right, my mind thinks that they just never made it, unfortunately. But there's a piece in that. Because they're not suffering anymore. So then, although it's, you're away from man's cruelty, and that, unfortunately, at least they've gone out in their own way to a certain degree.
Yes.
They've chosen to this way, this fate, whereas it's not been forced upon them. But I suppose in a way it was forced, the was being drove out.
Yeah, but you are right. I mean, you are right to a degree, but if they wanted to, they could have stayed there and been shot. They could have faced the firing line, but they decided
take a chance.
Yeah, and again, Rolf, this cynical older, dog who's been through the ringer, and you can understand why he is the way he is, and he wants to become a killer, and he wants to be like the wolves that the dogs grew from, and go back to his instincts and murder all the sheep and everything. He wants to embrace that, even though he was a domesticated dog, but has only known, these lab coats or, poor owners in the past. We don't really know much about his past per se, but we know he's had a hard bloody life. And yeah, it's I think again, it's wonderful to see him all of a sudden just kind of almost throw caution to the wind and also him, like the relationship they have with Todd, who is the Fox character, the Geordie Fox, or the Sunderland from Sunderland, isn't it? Fox, who is kind of trying to teach them the ways. He's benefiting from them being stronger and faster.
Clever. I mean, they say the cunning of a fox. He's very
crafty. Yeah,
he sees the fact that he can get a meal out of these guys. so it benefits him. But at the same point, he does have a relationship with them where he does care, and I mean, again, that should be nice, but that ends in tragedy.
Yeah.
But I suppose there's a part of maybe he wronged him a few times, so he's kind of thought,
sure.
I'm going to make it right for you guys. And that, there's a few moments when he gets bitten by one of the dogs, and you think, oh, you've been caught, and then he gets away, and you think, yes, there's a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. No, there's fucking not.
Yeah. That was another thing I read in the book. Is I think that in the book it implies that maybe he's not dead. Maybe he might be alive, or he might be playing like possum or something. I believe, but again, if I'm wrong, please correct me on these books because I have not read them. I've just tried to Google as much information as I can because I had no time to read the book. Otherwise, I would have, and maybe I still will. You never know. But yeah, apparently so. But again, he's got an arc as well. Like his arc is, he's this, crafty. We see him in the shadows in this like mine shaft, and he's like, and Rolf's like, don't trust him. He's proper shady. Let's not do this. And he's like, oh, give him a chance. Again. Snitter's very, very hopeful and very like open to experiences and people and, and foxes. And they're like, and eventually they do. And all the while, Rolf is still quite cynical. He's like, I don't trust him, and like, yeah, he does prove himself to be, and Snitter's like, well, it's his nature. That's what he does. This is how he is. And eventually, he does save their lives from this, like, this marksman, this sniper guy. He actually does save them, and Rolf's like, yeah, like, you did save my life. He's like, don't worry about it, it's fine. We know that deep down there's, he's not a complete, crafty, creepy fox. And then it's heavily, that's one of the things that was cut, was that the sniper gets knocked off the ridge, falls to his death, and then we see the helicopter come over his body, and it's implied that the dogs and the fox have eaten him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because of the way his body looks, it looks like he's not just fallen down. There's parts of him missing, some exposed rib cage and stuff like that, and that was cut out of that. That's the uncut version, the 40-hour and 40 version.
I didn't see that bit somewhere. Right.
Oh, don't worry. It's very brief. I had to rewind it a couple of times because I was doing something else. But yeah, like it's pretty like, oh shit. And there's a few other, like, if you want more brutality, this film has got it in spades. Like the moment where, like, Snitter meets the friendly kind of rich guy, and he's like, oh, come here. Like, It was weird because I came back to my flat and there was a cat outside, and I tried to convince it to come over, and I eventually did. And then when he came over, he was like absolutely all over me. And then I went upstairs to watch this, and then there's that scene, and I was like, "Oh god, oh, this will be nice." And then
I just put my shotgun down as well. By the way,
so yeah, he puts his shotgun down to the side of him. He's like, "Hey, come here," and the dog's like, eventually, like, "Yeah, I'll come over." He's a bit sheepish because he sees the gun. He's like, not sure, and he goes to jump all over him, and he jumps on the trigger of the shotgun, and it shoots the guy square in the face, and he falls over and dies. Like. And because he's already got that trauma of him causing his master's death by accidentally getting into the road, and the master kind of pushes him out of the road, but he gets hit by the van, the car, and dies, like cracks his head open. He's like, it's my fault. I'm always like this. I'm always causing death. And like later on, he's even joking where he's like, oh, just let me at them, because anytime I go near humans, I end up bloody killing them anyway. As much as I love them, I end up bloody killing them. So they'll have no chance against us if you let me, go out.
I think he says that about the helicopter. He says, yeah, let me on the helicopter and I'll make it crash and kill them all. And it's like, it's a bleak way of looking at things. But I suppose some of the interactions he's had in his life, that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
It's interesting. I mean, if you can understand me and that talking, I've got a bit of a Yorkshire accent. This has a serious character set of Yorkshire accents, to the point where I thought, I really wish it had subtitles, because there's a few points I had to kind of, yes, okay, I get what they're trying to say now. But yeah, there's a bit like, up on fell, lad, that's where they were. And I'm like, oh gosh, right, okay. it did amuse me, but I could see, because I think you said that you struggled at times with some of what they were saying.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
did, yeah.
You know, it was nice when you had Dr. Boycott coming on with his posh voice and explain, oh yes, this is what we're going to do, and then I think, all right, okay, I can get that.
Yeah, the two like border collies or sheepdogs or something that kind of come around and they're trying to attack the sheep because they want to impress the farmer, so they try and chase the sheep, but actually they've chased them out of the pen and they've all gone elsewhere, and then they come over and say, "What have you done? What have you done, lad?
You bastard!"
Yeah, pretty much. What have you done, thee? What have you done? And yeah, it's very, very funny. And again, we got a Geordie Fox as well, and yeah, we get a good mix of kind of accents and stuff. Another thing I wanted to mention is like another reason I think this is not really a kids' film is all the human stuff that's going on. There's a lot of like, political, things going on. The dogs get out, then they find out it's the local lab, and they're not fond the local lab is there experimenting on animals, and they go around, they're causing havoc and, cause the guy to die, and then another guy gets killed. That's when the army comes in. They killed several sheep. They've, killed the chickens and stuff. They've caused absolutely, they've gone through the bins and, God knows, and it's all the talk of the town and the area because they're absolutely causing all this havoc. And again, like you said, it's like a cover up. The lab is saying, "Oh, they're not our dogs, nothing to do with us. I don't know what you're talking about. No idea." They're like, a fox can't do this. It has to be a dog. There's no way. And then we get this slowly, the unraveling happens, and one of the scientists speaks to a reporter who doesn't know is a reporter, and we see all this stuff. And then there's like radio kind of talking about the situation. You've got town meetings going on, and we hear all of this mostly through audio. We very rarely see the humans' faces, and I feel like this is the far more like this is like we were talking about show don't tell. I think this is telling us far more than it shows us, but I think it's still there within it. It's still showing us a lot of it, but it feels like it's more about them. Apparently the book is has more of that that kind of human stuff that's going on, and the dialogue and kind of the satirical nature of it and what's happening, and again very much making the point against like vivisection and all this kind of wild experimentation. And these experiments that we do see, like you said, these are actually based on real experiments. These experiments did actually happen. They don't all happen in the same location or in the same, because again, a location would put it to one study instead of several different studies with several different animals. It's very rare that they would do that. So it would be like, but they are real. So that adds the realism to it. And yeah, the area, like, again, it just becomes a nightmare. Then they start trying to, because they want to end the kind of the controversy and the media getting hold of the story. They're like, oh, the dogs had plague, because they have been experimenting with plague, but the dogs were nowhere near it and they had no connection to it. But if they go out and they kill the dogs, or they tell people that the dogs have the plague, then they might run away, or the army might come in and kill them, and then they don't have to worry about it. So yeah, the kind of cynical Dr. Boycott is like, oh yeah, well, we'll do this, we'll do that. And again, you hear him and you can just hear the kind of like, again, the complete apathy of his character. And it's like, well, it's what we do. We experiment, we do this, we tried that. Oh, that's interesting. And all this going on. And yeah, it's just absolutely horrendous stuff that is going on, and the way these dogs are treated by, not only by the general public, but by the scientists and by the military. Again, just utterly harrowing tale of them just trying to survive. And we see they're starving, they're struggling to eat. They're getting, you can see the kind of bones are showing, the rib cages are showing.
Yeah, they start getting mercenated as they go. It's what I wrote down. You see as the film goes on, the ribs are starting to show and protrude more and more as it's going along.
Yeah, and again, it's only really the space of a few weeks. Really, it's not the, it's not a long period of time. It's and we keep getting the dates of how this is progressing in regards to the dog's life and trying to live in the wild, but also the controversy behind the lab. And
it was interesting as well because, like, the farmers are kind of complaining at first, and it's like, sheep are going missing, which is their livelihood, and no one's really cared, no one's bothered. And then the fella gets shot in the face, and then it becomes a big thing, and it's like, all right, well, we'll step in now. And then it there's even a part where they're in Houses of Parliament talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it threw me first time when it kind of you had that running commentary going on in the background when the dogs are still kind of doing stuff.
Yeah.
You never really kind of leave the dogs as such.
No.
You're always following them along. But it is that point where, they go into the House of Parliament. We kind of hear from there to when the army kind of come in to kind of deal with it. But nothing was done until the point when that man got shot.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was very much a chance of trying to cover it up and try hide it. And, there's that discussion between the reporter and the person who's working at the lab, and it's like they never agree or deny kind of that the dogs have gone missing and that. But then it's like, we'll send a man, to kind of go and deal with this thing. And that's kind of the telling thing of mankind trying to cover up the mistakes that they've made. And unfortunately, these two poor dogs are the ones who are suffering from it. They're the ones who, are the victims. Just to try to keep, is it Dr. Boycott in power, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind
Absolutely.
of. And again, it's harrowing. It's just not nice, kind of what they have to go through. And after, the snow comes in and they're having to try to deal with the snow and that. And, it's a blessing and a curse to them, they say, because they can't track them and that. But, that I remember, as I say, I went to go pick George up from school, but driving to school and thinking, oh my God, I'm trying to compose myself a bit because it affected me so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that, which is good. It's good because, people, like I said, nowadays, this is probably very few and far between that this happens. And that, that I'm sure that there are people who out there who do animal cruelty. Yes, there is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that, but, we have a lot more kind of people kind of stepping in and stopping this, Some do it the right way, some people do it the wrong way. But the thing is, it's acknowledged now, whereas back then, they were just pieces of meat.
It did shock me how often they kick the dogs in this. Like, just there, like the little dog, the little yappy dog that's like pissing on everything and like jumping up at everybody. Every single person the dog jumps up at, they kick the dog.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is very, late 70s, early 80s way of treating a dog.
Yeah, it's just, it's not, I mean, it's, you've got to understand it's set in a time where, it wasn't right, but that's kind of,
it's just that it was the done thing, wasn't it? So,
shut
it's
up
not,
and get out of the way.
Ideal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's.
It's a tough old watch. Yeah, I thought Watership Down was going to be tough, but yeah, Plague Dogs is another level of something else. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about Plague Dogs before we compare these two?
And there is a nice bit when Snitty gets caught and put in a shed.
Yes,
that's not a nice thing. Just point that out. But they go to free him. Todd turns up again because Ralph goes to find Todd and is like, I need you to help me. And Todd's like, okay, then that's fine. They kind of get him out, and there's one of the humans go to grab Snitty, and Ralph bites his hand, and you're like, oh, yeah, go on, get it. Now again, but then they use that as like, oh, the dog's now attacked a person. So it's a way they kind of, what is it? It's not warmongering. What's the word?
Like fear-mongering?
Fear-mongering, yeah. They then kind of turn that round so that they can use this against the dogs to say, oh, well, they need destroying. I mean, it's even the point when they are being chased to the beach. The army's kind of chasing them, but they're not shooting at them, they're just trying to corner them in to kind of capture them. Who knows what would happen after that? I don't know, but
exactly.
you do feel a bit of restraint from the army.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many groups that have been scapegoated by other groups. If you want to look at like reform and immigrants, and immigrants that have lived here for years, they're trying to get rid of now. Like they just see it. Again, it's like, oh, we're only after illegal. Oh well, we are after them, but also the people that have not got necessarily permanent stay. We're going to come after you now next. So again, it's a
slippery slope.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to keep pushing it until somebody says no or says that's enough. You're not going any further. And eventually it will affect everybody. If you wear a blue hat or a purple hat, or we don't like you blue hat people. It sounds ridiculous, but it can get that. If it's not religion or anything that divides us or differentiates us, people are going to use that as all these immigrants are rapists and criminals. Not the case. It's the same with these dogs. They don't have the plague. They definitely don't have it. They were around it, and they were
It's
near.
an issue because the problem is, it's like one of the things people argue is the fact that we have people that are in the service that come out, and there isn't help for people that leave the service. They've served, they've been in the army or the navy or whatever they've been in, and they're forgotten about. And the government should do more for that, but that doesn't seem to turn our backs on other people as well.
Exactly.
The problem is, it's always a case of how can they twist it to kind of suit their what their agenda,
their narrative. 100%. Yeah.
It's easy to turn around and say, "Oh, well, it's because of that," but the problem is, as a white man, I hear it many times going, "Oh, they're coming over here and they're stealing our jobs," and it's like, okay, you're saying that, but you sat there on benefits doing nothing on your ass. If you're that bothered, get off your ass and go get a job. Then people that come over and drive taxis or do corner shops or takeaways, we could do that.
Yeah,
but we don't.
No, the thing is, like, there is a white privilege, that is still there, and that it is something that businesses have to acknowledge when hiring and stuff, and I've literally never in my life struggled to get a job. The only time you struggle to get a job is when you say, I don't want to do that. I'm too proud to do that. That's when you won't get a job. If you're happy to put up and shut up and get the money in, do what you can, you will have. I've been an actor. I've been away for 6 months. I've come back, and within a day or two, I've had a job.
Yeah,
easily. And again, that's part of the privilege of being white. It's part of the privilege of having the upbringing and the background that I have. I understand that that's part of it. And I was very lucky to have that ability to do that and the opportunity to do that. But there's a lot of people out there that don't.
The thing is, I've worked. I'm a milkman, so I've done that. But I've been a postman. I've been in the Royal Navy. I worked at McDonald's. And the thing is, I needed money. I went and got a job, and that I was a locksmith when I left school, and that I was happy to go out and work and do something. And I was fortunate that I got hired. Whether that was because I'm white or whatever the reason, I wasn't too proud to turn around and say, "Well, I'm not going to work at McDonald's because Did I get a wage at the end of it? Yes, I did.
Yeah,
and that's what I did.
Exactly.
Too many people do sit there and they'll sit there, on the benefits and not they'll whinge and moan about things. And the fact that, these people are coming here and bleeding our country dry. And it's like, yeah, but you're not putting anything back neither.
And again, like they put out some statistics recently, and it was like 83% of benefit claimants were born in the UK, are white, UK born, bred people. So that it's not the immigrants coming and taking benefits.
No,
it's not.
I mean, where I live, I'm very near Bradford. Now, Bradford is a lot of Asian there,
Sure. Yeah.
and that I don't have an issue with them. and that I don't. I really do not care what color your skin is, and that the only thing that bothers me is whether you're a nice person or not. It doesn't
Exactly,
matter whether you're black, white, pink, blue. It doesn't matter. I won't use the C word, but if you're a C word, you are. It doesn't matter what color you are, and that. The thing is, people need to look past that. It's just too easy for people to kind of jump on a bandwagon and say, "Oh, this is the reason why." But it's like people like you is the reason why this country's failing at times, and the government, obviously. They're
True. But yeah, enough about that. Enough about all them politics. But
we'll get Dave on here in a minute.
Yeah, well, we'll have somebody will be right. We're already, somebody's already getting mad at this. Like, but yes, no, I completely agree with you, Matt. I 100% agree with you. But yes, enough about scapegoats. Let's get back to these other animals. So, as you know, escape dogs. Yes, absolutely. As you know, Maff, we have 5 categories, as we've done this before. So we have writing, acting, music, cinematography, and direction. So we will compare in these categories. So tell me, which film out of Watership Down from 1978 and Plague Dogs from 1982 has the best written script?
This is tough. In fact, all these subjects are quite tough because obviously...
I was going to say, this. I think these are tough categories, and they're 2 very good films.
I mean,
and it's
written by the same person. So
true.
That does make
they
it
are going to win. They're going to win either way.
Yeah. But I think as a story, I think there's more said in Plague Dogs. So I think what I believe he's trying to get across is better told in Plague Dogs. There's a message there, and that. So it's harder. It's a harder watch, but I would say that it's better written than. Not that Watership Down is badly written, but I will give this to Plague Dogs for this one.
I kind of have to agree with you. I think Watership Down is good, and it has a lot of. Again, I think there's underlying themes and underlying subtext that's there. On top of this. Again, rip-roaring kind of adventure, kind of mythological tale, told, with bunny rabbits. But yeah, I think the again, it's a bit more on the nose with what it's trying to say in Plague Dogs. But I think it's a good juxtaposition with what we have with the dogs and what's going on in their lives, and the kind of domino effect of how the decisions that are being made by the humans are going to directly affect the dogs' lives and lead them to where they end up. And again, the satire is there, the kind of the wry kind of British humor is there as well. So it is dark, but there is kind of kind of like, oh, this stuff is horrible. Like the acronym for the lab is ARSE. It's like Animal Research Scientific Experiment or something, and it spells arse. So you clearly, like, he knows what he's saying, what he's doing. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and again, Plague Dogs as well is Watership Down was not intended to be a novel. It was written for his children initially, and again, this is a few years after that, or sometime after that, he's written Watership Down and come to Plague Dogs as well.
I do feel that he's been able to insert things into Watership Down as like you say, subtlety, and it's like, that worked. I'll do it in Plague Dogs, but I'll make it very on point.
Yeah,
and I think that's why it drives that point. But it's very much, this is what the film is. I'm going to kind of, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm just going to kind of say it as I see it. So yeah, I feel the story.
It's almost like it's almost like people didn't pick up on the subtext of Watership Down, so he went, "Oh right, so I'm going to have to really, really emphasize how bad we as humans are and what we are doing to the natural world, and I'm just going to lay it out for you as obvious as I can be. So there's no where you can misinterpret this or
Yeah,
miss
100%.
the point of it. And again, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But it's a lot more intellectual as a script, and there's a lot more as a story, I think, as well in general. And again, he's making more of those parallels between like the Holocaust and World War II to, you know, what we're doing to animals and why should it be so different? Why should we allow this when we wouldn't allow this for humans? You know, so yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the more intellectual, and again, that's why kind of I wouldn't say it's for kids, because I think a lot of the stuff, the human voiceover would just kind of go over their heads, I think, and they wouldn't really pick up on it or understand.
They're not going to enjoy just watching it anyway.
No, true, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, the dog stuff is like, okay, this is really sad, but then also the stuff that where they're getting like, you know, there's a barrage of information that they're giving you.
It's too much for a kid to take in.
Yeah, to take in and to fully comprehend and understand. Absolutely. But yes, absolutely agree with you there. I think it is the better script. Again, Watership now does not have a bad script. But I think both of these are good, seemingly good adaptations. Again, I don't know. I've not read the books, but from what I've read, you know, most people feel that way about both of these films. Okay, next up is acting. So we've got quite a big selection of decent actors. We've got like Patrick Stewart and various other, like the cream of the crop of, like, you know, mostly male, you know, British acting talent. So out of these two films, which did you feel had the better acting performances?
In a way, it's a smaller cast with Plague Dogs.
Yeah,
you've got John Hurt and is it Christopher Ben? I've just closed the page. Christopher Benjamin, I think it is.
Me too. I closed it as well. So
I did not expect to come into this because before we had this conversation, I didn't start thinking which is my favorite, which I'm going to pick. But I feel that again with what they're pushing, Plague Dogs wins again because I feel that the acting is very much kind of on point of what they're trying to do, and that and again between Snitter and Ralph as well. You kind of have that with Fiver and Hazel, but the thing is, and Hazel kind of pushes out into Big Wig, and sometimes it gets a bit crowded in Watership Down. So I feel that acting wise, you get more from Plague Dogs because it is tighter. Is probably the best way to kind of describe it.
Yeah, I guess with Watership Down, it's more of like an ensemble piece. So we don't really get a whole lot of time. And again, there were far more characters and far more rabbits, as there usually is in the book. So they absolutely drastically cut that down just to again make sure that everybody had a character, a specific role to play, and we're not just kind of just there to be, you know, picked off by a hawk or something. But yeah, I think it's a tricky one because again, Watership
some of the
Down
cast overlap again.
Yeah, some of the cast overlap. Yeah, like we said, and I think the acting is not necessarily bad in Watership Down. I think it's the exact same kind of level. But I think because there's so many characters, we could maybe have had, like I was saying at the end, I was like, could have done with a bit more of the other characters, or just a little epilogue for each of them, perhaps, that we don't get because, again, we're trying to tell this big overarching story, and we can miss these smaller character moments, even though they're there and even though they're very good. But then part of me is like, you know, as much as I like the focus on the two characters and again their juxtaposition and the way they flip their scripts in a way, part of me was like, whew, this is a bit dour. It's a bit, you know, sometimes I was just like, whew, really need again, like, it's good, it's great.
You need a change of pace.
But part of me was like, yeah, I kind of just like, I needed so, and again, I can understand why they made some cuts to it, like just to kind of, again, quicken the pace, because again, Watership Down does not have that problem. But again, I think I felt more for Plague Dogs, and again, I think that might be because I've had dogs. I've been, I've had dogs that have died, and I remember them fondly. And I feel there is, if it was my dog, I think there's a part of me was if it was my dog out there. And again, I think the ending as well is powerful, and I think the acting does a lot of the heavy lifting there. So yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I was on the fence for a moment, but I think thinking about that ending scene, and how powerful that is, and the acting and the empathy for these characters, and we like them, we want them things to end well for them, but we know they won't. Yeah, I'll give it to Plague Dogs again, definitely.
Yeah, I think because it's mainly John Hurt and it's Christopher Benjamin.
Yeah,
they're the main two. You do get James, is it Bolam, who plays Todd, who kind of comes in to kind of
good. Yeah, I think
break it up a little bit.
Yeah, and there's a bit of humour there as well. Like you said, with the seagull that comes in Watership Down, I think he comes in at a good point.
And he's not overused. He's there enough. And that, but I just feel it's tighter with them guys, and that you feel that you kind of invested in them an awful lot more because they're the ones that you follow.
I think as well with Watership Down is there's so many characters and they all look kind of the same that you kind of lose track of who's who a little bit.
I think it is. There's just too many characters in Watership Down, and it's a lighter-hearted version. Whereas Plague Dogs is very much kind of on point of what it's meant to be. Yeah,
I think so. We'll give that to Plague Dogs. Next up is music. So which film had the better score or the better songs, featured songs?
Now, Bright Eyes are obviously always it's permanent there because the thing is, this is where Plague Dogs struggle because I've not seen it before. It doesn't sit with me. The music in the background, the score in the background is fine and it does its job. But it does that in Bright Eyes. It does it in Watership Down as well. And I think, unfortunately, because Watership Down is more known to me and having that iconic song, I think that outweighs and that wins because even the song in Plague Dogs at the start and at the end, I can kind of half remember it, but it's not really sat with me.
No.
And that whereas, and again, the soundtrack, it does its job of setting scenes, but, I don't know if it's the same composer or not for both films. And that, but it's not something I can pull out. I think, that song Bright Eyes just stands above everything else.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think Watership Down, I think the score generally is a bit more bombastic, it's a bit more exciting, it's a bit more dynamic, which again reflects the film and the various kind of action sequences and adventure sequences we see. I think there's a lot more kind of peaks and troughs and different styles of music in it as well, like depending on the scenario they're in, and what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. And again, Bright Eyes, I think, is a really good song. I think, like you said, Plague Dogs, I think the music is successful. It does what it needs to do. And I think Time and Tide is a nice song. And I think they're trying to replicate, in a way, the success of Watership Down and that song. Which I think it did top the charts at the time. I think it was pretty successful as a song. In the UK, I think more so than US. But yeah, I think Watership Down absolutely slam dunks it for me.
The thing is, as well, with Plague Dogs, because it's so dreary and depressing throughout the film, the music, apart from a bit with Todd.
There's like a playful moment later on where they're kind of playing some games.
Have that. Do you remember Peter and what's it called? Peter and the Wolf. There was the play and that, and each of the animals had their own kind of instrument, and that I remember having this at school. And Peter was the flute, the wolf was the oboe, I think, and things like that. You kind of have that highs and lows, and that. But unfortunately, with Plague Dogs, most of it's all low, and that.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
kind of mingle into each other. Whereas in Watership Down, you have them points where you're being chased, so you have that
Exactly, yeah.
chase music and that. So the score is better in Watership Down for me.
Oh yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. And again, I think the trajectory of Plague Dogs is you are going down. Things are deteriorating. Things are getting worse, and the music, reflects that. And again, there are moments of like levity, and there are moments of, adventure
Gives
and
you a
action.
break.
Yeah, give you a break. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there is moments of that, but I don't think the change is as drastic as when or as intense as when we move from a moment where Bigwig's having a go at Fiver, and then all of a sudden he's in the snare and they're fighting for their lives trying to get him out and save his life when his mouth's filling with blood. And you're like, shit.
Yeah.
You really feel that, and the music supports that feeling.
It's more noticeable though. That's why.
Yeah,
Whereas,
exactly. Yeah.
When you're in depressed mode, it just it kind of goes on the same level.
Yeah, that's my new band name, Depressed Mode. That's gonna be it, and that'll be our first song is Plague Dogs. So we're gonna do the Plague Dogs as our song. But yeah, no,
and then we'll bring it Watership Down.
No, a Watership Downer, a Watership Downer.
Yeah,
But next up is cinematography.
Again,
it's tough.
The art sounds very similar. It depends what you want to get from it.
Yeah.
I think Watership Down is more vibrant, and
definitely
Watership Down I think wins it for me because there are several different art forms you get there. You get the start with the mythology of the rabbit, and then you have the points when it gets quite dark, the dark, shadowy rabbit, and also the black rabbit. So you have a mixture of different things there. Whereas Plague Dog, again, it's done well, but it's very dark and dreary because that's what the film needs to be. And I feel that it just needs... The art style's very similar. I'm assuming the studio is the same kind of art.
I believe. I think this might have been. I think it was a UK company for Watership Down. It might have been a US company for Plague Dogs. I'm not sure.
Right.
But no, I agree. I mean, for the story they're telling in Plague Dogs, I think it does need a kind of that kind of color scheme. Like, it is a slightly darker, more dreary, grey. For the story they're telling there, I think that works, and the art style is slightly different. The way they animate the humans and the way they animate some of the other characters is a little bit different, but it is still quite similar enough where you could relate the two. But yeah, I'm with you. I was going to say, like, the variety of styles of animation and the way they tell each and every one of their memories or the types of dreams and hallucinations or visions that Fiver has are all so varied and all so different that each time you come to them, it's not like, oh, we're doing this again, or we're doing that again. It's like, it's almost like they've given it to a different animator, a different artist each and every time. And they go, how would you represent this idea of the Warrens being filled in by all this construction equipment and stuff? And again, I think it is the variety for me. It's the variety of the storytelling, the visuals, and the kind of motifs that they keep coming back to, like the Black Rabbit of Death and stuff like that. Like, and again, it's a mix, such a varied mixture of the different art forms and styles that even when there's nothing going on, it still looks kind of wonderful. And again, Plague Dogs is not bad at that either. It looks great, and they do have their own different styles, but they don't vary it up as much as.
That's the thing. It's you can tell the difference. Like, even being in the different Warrens, when you're in the Warren with Cowslip, I think it is, and that it's got a certain kind of feel to it. Whereas in General Woolmore, when he takes over the Warren, it seems darker. The rabbits seem darker. There's a different contrast to everything there.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah,
Plague Dogs is
definitely
very much
different
kind of-
shades of
Yeah.
stuff going on. But yeah, Plague Dogs is, I don't want to say it's one note, because it's not one note at all. But it has a theme and a style and a
it wants you
visual
to be
it
dark.
has a visual language, and like I said, it's telling you from the get-go, this is not going to be a fun story, this is not going to end well, and I know that because of what they're doing. Like I watched it kind of halfway home. I had to watch it today because I've had no time, and I watched part of it on the bus, and the second I put it on, I felt all of my body go oof, like all the air kind of come out of me, and my body just like slump almost, because I went, oh fuck, I'm in for it now, aren't I? I know exactly what this is going to be, and like I've read about it, I've done the research, I've seen clips and trailers and stuff, but even I wasn't quite prepared for the oppressive nature of it and the power of it. Like you said, how much power it had over you, and you trying to kind of compose yourself and get be the happy dad when you get to the school gates and stuff, and that's hard to do sometimes when you've watched something like this. But again, that just shows how powerful and how well done the Plague Dog story and this adaptation is, and the animation and the acting and everything. And again, I think it's purely the variety of that story, and the different elements and acts that they have are also varied, instead of this kind of downward hill trajectory of the dogs and what they're coming to, and what we're ultimately, we know we're going there, we know we're going to get there. Like this, and you can hope against hope, but we know it's not going to end in the best way for them. But again, I have to give it to Watership Down just for the sheer variety of visual storytelling and language.
Yeah, definitely. So they're tied to a piece.
Oh, this is it. It's getting tight. Who can win? Who comes out on top? Will the dogs have their day, or will the rabbits escape the clutches of death once again? They will not be caught. So direction. Let's have it, Maff. Which film is better directed?
Again, I suppose this comes down to your own personal point of view of things, but going into this, I expected Watership Down to win this all hands-free. No problems. It would win for everything. But the direction and what it's trying to do and trying to tell is better in Plague Dogs. It's like he's whether it's from his book or whether him and
So Martin Rosen
has kind of set down to, like, we can do a bit more. We can do a bit more with Plague Dogs. We can tell these things that you're wanting to say that people aren't listening to.
Push the envelope.
Yeah, and I think it does a better job there, and I think it gets you to ask more questions. So, in a direction, I think it works better there. I didn't expect myself to kind of feel like this and that, but I think that it's the one that I would probably talk about more. And that, again, I've watched Watership Down many times, even though it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I think Plague Dogs is something that you would sit there and discuss more because of everything that's in there. There's a lot more to kind of, although, to be fair, we did actually talk more about Watership Down the first one. Maybe I think that's partly because that's the first one we kind of tackled.
It's got a lot in it as well. There's a lot to unpack, and there's so many events and characters and things we have to. But with this, again, Plague Dogs does have a lot of things that occurs in it. It's a
very
big
much
story.
more on the nose of kind of things that they wanted to say, and I think because they've kind of said, "Fuck it, we're just going to say these things," and people maybe that's why it didn't do as well. Because it was too much on the nose. But I think for what they wanted to do, in my opinion, they've done it better in Plague Dog.
Yeah. So it's a tough one because I think Watership Down is still a masterclass in animation and storytelling, and that has stayed with me like all these years, like you said. But this is a new experience, and this is kind of a fresher experience to a degree for me. Again, I try not to see both of the films, or at least just one of the films, before I do any of these comparisons. And I hadn't seen Watership Down in a long time. I'm not even sure if I've seen it all the way through, or if there's been ads, or if I've gone off and done something, or come back to it or something. But yeah, I think you've convinced me, because I think I was leaning towards Watership Down, which is again just amazing, just really, really good, really quality, just a quality film and quality filmmaking. But yeah, I think almost this is what I expected Watership Down to be. Like when I came into this, I was like, it's depressing, it's violent, it's bleak, it's dark. This is kind of what I expect from it, and it's kind of not what I got from it. It is more of a fun adventure, that I enjoy, that I was taken away on and along with. That, yeah, it does feature dark stuff and violence and what have you. But yeah, overall, I think
they win at the end of the day. That's the thing.
Yeah, does it win?
Indiana Jones. I think it's that thing where when you sit down and you watch Watership Down, I mean, it's probably 20 years ago since I last watched it.
Yeah.
But I do, like you, I had in my mind the fact that it's bleak, it's depressing, and it's not. There are fun points in there, and at the end of the day, they do kind of win.
Yeah.
And then you watch Play Dogs, and you're like, fuck. and it's like he's trying to say things in Watership Down, but like you said, people didn't really pick up on it. So he's going like, fuck it then. I'm going to just put it on the plate for you in front of you, and you're gonna eat this, And if you don't, it'll be there for your next meal. And that it's very much more on the nose. And I think because of that, because he's taken that chance and he's gone, you know what, I'm going to say what I want to say in this, and that I think it out. Again, if I can persuade you, I think the direction of it is better with Play Dogs, because he tried it with Watership Down in little bits, but it didn't really work. So he's gone like, I'm really going to go for it with Play Dogs.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost like, again, it's almost like I was disappointed with Watership Down. Like I came in almost expecting it to be depressing and sad and brutal and all of those things, which it kind of still is. But yeah, Plague Dogs is another level. And I think just as Watership Down has stayed with me all these years, I think Plague Dogs will stay with me all these years as well. I think from now on, I will come back to this. This is not probably as rewatchable as Watership Down, but I think it's arguably more powerful. And again, I think about that final scene. Like, again, I was unhappy with the kind of, not unhappy, but I expected maybe more from the ending of Watership Down, considering the rest of the film had me. It's kind of switched gears almost at the last minute. But this is like exactly, again, what it sets up to be, what it's saying, what it is going to do. And yeah, and again, the ambiguous ending, I think, is more powerful in some ways. And says so much more. And again, I can make my own mind up. Did they make it? Did they not make it? I guess I must be the pessimist because I don't think they make it. But
no.
But almost that's the better ending for me. That's the happier ending in a way than them getting to the island and then struggling to survive even
exactly,
there.
That's the thing. Even if they make it to the island, then they're going to go for everything that they've just done previously.
Yeah, it's probably even more inhospitable almost. Maybe it's just rocks and, God knows what else is there, and they can't eat anything and they just fucking starve. So in a way, that's my happier ending is them drowning. But yeah, you know what? You have convinced me. I wasn't sure. I was a bit on the fence coming into it, but yeah, I think just the power of that ending and the overall. Again, this is tragic. This is horrible. This is harrowing, but it's also beautiful at the same time because of that, I think. And there is beauty in tragedy, and there's comedy in tragedy as well. There's and I think as well there's a personal connection as well, because we've all had dogs. We've all loved dogs and cared for dogs. Even if you're not a dog lover, You don't want to see a dog hurt, or a dog, die or injured or anything. There's something there. So yeah, considering you brought all these depressing choices to the table, I'm going to go with the most depressing option. Surprisingly, I didn't think I would. Joking at the start.
I mean, I don't know where you Plague Dogs is on Prime at this moment in time.
Oh, perfect.
So I watched it on Prime because there is a version on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And that, but it was a bit stuttery. Watership Down was a bit more trickier to find.
Sure. Yeah. I think it has just been released on Blu-ray. If people want it, I think it's a BFI box set.
I think I watched it on the archive. Is it
the archive? Yeah, the Internet Archive.
So,
yeah. I watched Plague Dogs. I think I can't remember where I found Watership Down, but I definitely watched Plague Dogs tonight in 4K on YouTube. Again, the uncut version, the long version. So yeah, it is available. So if anybody wants to go out there and watch them, you can find them. I think you can still rent them, or
not with your kids.
Yeah, maybe not with your kids. Maybe some very mature teenagers, or maybe if you've got like an environmental activist child, or something like that. That might be or one who's wants to be a veterinarian is a good thing, because you'll see how these animals suffer when they're getting injured, and you might it might inspire people to become veterinarians as well.
Yeah, I think if you're happy to sit down and have a hard conversation with the child, then it's definitely worth a watch.
And films are there to challenge you, like I said during the Banned Books podcast, Simon Pegg says they're not always meant to be entertaining. They're meant to make you feel something. You got mad, you got sad, during these films, you got upset, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's a negative feeling, but it also means that you're fucking not dead inside like Dr. Boycott.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not going to be doing this and think it's nothing. You feel something, and that's how effective this film is. That's how powerful this film is.
It's how it should be.
Yeah.
If you can, it's like, say, when I watched I Swear, I walked away from that thinking, that really meant something to me.
Yeah.
If there needs to be more films like that, there need to be where you can walk away and you can question, you can have a conversation with someone. And, the thing is, if it changes your view and how you see things for the better, then, where can we go wrong?
I know Mike does it. He has a poster, doesn't he? Him and Megan go through all these different films, and it's like the 100 greatest films or what have you. And, how many of those have good endings or happy endings? I don't think a lot of them do. The reason, the biggest selling songs of all time, they're all heartbreak songs. They're all about heartbreak and losing somebody, or, being dumped. Those are all the biggest sellers of all time, because
that's
it's
where
relatable.
your emotion comes from.
Exactly.
Well, how many times do people sit there and write a love song, such and such is just...
All the poems, they're mostly about, it's very rare that they're not about heartbreak and things like that, like bad negative feelings. And again, it's a way of expressing them and getting them out, or managing them, or, compartmentalizing them. Do I want to watch a fucking tragic... Am I going to put Plague Dogs on again tomorrow? No, absolutely fucking not. I'm going to watch something else. I'm going to watch, something a bit lighter, something that makes me laugh. But it's I don't always watch certain films of certain genres, because or if they go, oh, you should watch this, it's really good. I'm like, okay, well, am I having a good mental health day? No, so maybe I'll watch a sitcom or something like that. But it is. I think
I did say to you, if you're going to watch Plague Dogs last night, have something amusing to watch afterwards, just to kind of perk you up. It's a hard watch.
Yeah, it is hard, and it is difficult, but it's worthwhile. That's what it is. Like, again, Requiem for a Dream could have been on your top 5 list, but I've seen it once, don't need to see it again, but it was worthwhile watching, And,
it's like Schindler's List. It's a film that I think most people should watch. Will I watch it again? Probably not.
No,
because it's quite, it really gets you.
And again, just because a film isn't necessarily rewatchable doesn't mean it's a bad film. Just because you're upset by it doesn't mean it's a bad film. Again, it depends on how it's depicted and what it shows, and how comfortable you are with things. But sometimes, like I've known so many women in my life who just cry, and I'm like, why are you crying? They're like, because it makes me feel better. And I'm like, right, cool, I'll leave you to it. Like, there's nothing necessarily, upsetting them, but they cry because it's kind of cathartic.
A way to get,
and it's a way to manage, their feelings. But there's no particular thing that's caused it, or there's no, there's nothing to fix or to mend, or to a situation to resolve. But it's something that makes you feel better. Then do it. But and how many of these love stories end poorly, or these Jordan Sparks movies and all this other stuff where they're like, the guy dies at the end or the girl dies at the end. You don't go. It's the experience of having that and taking that with you and what it meant to you. And sometimes it'll be a dog shit film. So you can like throw it away, forget about it. But your experience is your lived experience, and you bring all of that to a film, whether you love it, loathe it, or what have you. You've had an opinion on it. You've had a feeling about it. Those are the worst films for me, is when I'm apathetic about it, when I don't feel anything. Like, I'd rather love it or hate it. I'd rather have the extreme than be bored or be like, it was middle of the road. It was a meh film. I'd rather have an extreme reaction.
If you walk out, it's like, I know lots of people do like it, but is it one battle after another? I walked out and thought, it was fine.
Yeah.
But, I'm not a big, it's like, I know you've been and watched Tron, and it's like, I haven't seen it yet. I know it's going to be dog shit.
Not dog shit, but like for me, it was, again, that one was kind of middle of the road. I didn't really particularly hate it. I didn't particularly love it, but I had a lot of problems with it. But again, I like the soundtrack. I think the effects were good. That's about it. And most people, I think, are going to the cinema to see it for that reason, the spectacle of it, but not necessarily the characters or, the story or something like that. But if you want to, you can probably find more fun in it than I did. But and good luck to you. I hope you do enjoy it more than I did. I've not watched Andy's review yet, but I'm sure that will be devastating to all the Tron fans.
I think you liked it.
Yeah, maybe. I get a feeling. That maybe.
I think his review says Andy's furious, angry review.
Really? So he's adding all the just in case they didn't know he was already angry. He's furious this time. Furious. But yes, thank you for that, Matt. It's been a really good chat. This actually, I've really enjoyed it. Something a bit different for us.
Maybe
for the
something
podcast.
a bit uplifting next time.
So we'll think about it. You have a think. We'll put your depressing films on the back burner, I think, for a little while, and maybe we'll come back to that. But you have a think about what you want to do. If you want to go back to the animals, you want to do something different. If you want to go back to the worst medical professionals not so long ago.
Oh yes.
So maybe we'll go back to something like that, maybe, or whatever you want, whatever you fancy. You know what I do. You know the formats I do. I didn't get many listener comments, but I did get one off Dave Horrocks, so I'm just going to read that out to you now. So I did ask, what your thoughts on Watership Down or Plague Dogs, and Dave's gone, no wonder Gen X are fucked up, but resilient. So yeah, fucked up but resilient. Would you agree?
Yeah. Again, that goes back to about 80s. Yeah, I'll just fucking watch it, Beret. And that.
I'm a millennial, and I kind of feel like that as well. I'm like, just fucking watch the rabbit get torn to shreds. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. You'll be fine.
Nothing from Derek.
No, unfortunately, I've recorded this and the previous podcast quite close together. So he didn't manage to unfortunately watch this because I'm preparing to go to Florida, and I wanted to have these ready to edit in November. Well, ready to have out in November, as opposed to so I can work on the Christmas stuff in November.
Yeah.
So I was trying to catch up a little bit. So, but no, he did respond to Dirty Harry and Death Wish. So he's got some comments in there. But I'm sure if he had the time, I just don't have a life, Math, so I can watch these films very quickly. And even I struggle to watch Plague Dogs this week, but I still managed it. We still did it. But yes, no, it's been a really, really good chat. Very insightful. Very different. Very, quite emotional as well. Quite deep. I think we got as well. But yeah, thank you. And I want to ask you, what have you got going on at the moment? You're still doing the Clone Wars conversations, I believe.
Yeah, I think we finished. I think we finished.
Where are you now?
Now that's a question. I think we've just done a couple of books. In fact, we've just done the Tales of that's been released. So we went and kind of did the Dooku and Ahsoka.
Oh right, yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
We have a Clone Wars wrap up where we kind of talk about our favorite episodes and arcs and our worst episodes as well. And that and then probably by the time this comes out, we may have already done. We're going to be doing Solo, the film Solo. I've seen it once, so
okay. Is that during the Clone Wars, or is that are you just
Solo? Well, we finished Clone Wars, so Solo comes afterwards, and then we're going to tackle the original 3.
Okay,
and then at some point we're doing. Bad
so you're
Batch
just carrying on. So the Clone Wars conversations, just minus the Clone Wars.
Well, it's Star Wars chit chat now. So
of course, sorry, no, you are correct.
So
correct.
it's all things. Mike says there is lots for us to do, so don't worry.
I'm sure. Even in the canon, there's a shit ton. But even if you went outside of the canon, still a fucking shit ton of Star Wars stuff. Yeah, you're never going to run out of stuff. Don't worry.
I think as well. There's Visions.
Star Wars Visions.
Vision comes out. I'm not entirely sure how we're doing that because I think Jax might be part of that, but I don't know. Because Mike's going to be quite busy near the end of the month.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Yeah, there's a little bundle of Force joy on its way.
That will possibly be born by the time this comes out, I'm guessing. So, but yeah, I'm on Letterboxd.
Yes, you are. Yes, excellent reviews. You're only getting better, Maff. The more you do these, you're getting amazing. I think you're one of my favorite reviewers to read on
I
Letterboxd.
appreciate that. It's weird. It went from just writing, yeah, good, to, I mean, as I said, I think earlier, or it might be not before we start recording, about being dyslexic.
Yeah,
trying to write things is a bit tricky. So I'm now trying to broaden what I write. So sit there with the thesaurus.
It's just practice, mate. Like I think you've come a long way since we did our She-Hulk podcast as well. Like from way back, you've come on leaps and bounds with that. And again, like I didn't know fuck all about films before I really started. Or stuff I've learned or picked up over the years. But yeah, the more stuff you watch, more people you listen to, more reviews you read, you only get better as time goes on. And again, like you wouldn't have been doing this many Star Wars podcasts if Mike didn't think you were up to it, and I wouldn't have you on. I'd have thrown you to the snare traps a long time ago. I'd be like, I've had enough of him.
There is also, I don't know if it'd been released and that, but we're bringing back Pop Gorillas.
Oh, nice, excellent. Yeah, I love Pop Gorillas.
So there's myself, Tony. Not Tony Farina, Tony
Holt Jr. Yeah,
Tony Holt Jr. Super Dummy Paul, and also Dan Belgraves is going to be. We're going to be doing little bits and bobs.
Nice.
So
keep him busy then.
Probably most of my movie reviews on Letterboxd will be in the Pop Gorillas there. But
yeah, do it.
As I said, that's getting resurrected.
Good idea. I like that. I do miss it. I think I'm still subscribed to it. So when it pops up with some new episodes, that'll be good. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
But yes, and before we go, you can find me at spiderdownthesecretballs.com. That's where you can find all the good stuff. And as always, don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle when you interact with us. And I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon: Tony Farina, I Am Jack's Musings, Simon Cotton, Paul Meller, Mike Burton, Angry Andy, Tonya Todd, Maff, Scott Hodgson, Ria Carrigan, Sarah Coyne, and Pete Walton. Thank you for your continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. If not, consider leaving a review, a comment, or sharing on social media. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maff. This has been a very 70s double bill for November that we've had it was a nice change of pace in a way from the sleazy right-wing ultra-conservative gun nuts of Death Wish and Dirty Harry, which I also
can't wait for that.
Had a lot of fun with. Yes, I think you'll get a lot out of that one with me and Dan. Yeah, both of these podcasts have run long, so yeah, you're getting double your money's worth. Even if you're not paying for it, you're getting double your money's worth. But yeah, thank you again, Maff. This has been great. Very, very different discussion, but I you know me, I love variety, much like I was saying in Watership.
Challenging things.
Yes, but you have a good think of what some, it doesn't have to be too lighthearted, but maybe just a little lighter than what we've covered today. I think you have a think.
Could be anything then, really.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, anything that's even just a shade higher than this, I'll be happy with. Okay. So, yeah, we'll have again variety. We'll have a bit of variety, definitely. But yeah, thank you again, guys, and as always, prepare for Prattle.